injured in an accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Because every accident has a ripple effect. It affects your time, your health, your ability to make money, everything. That's where the advocates can help. Speaking with an attorney is simple and 100% free. We're available 24/7 for your convenience, and we'll take on the claims process so you can rest easy. Because you're not just a client to us, you're a person, and you deserve the best help you can get. You deserve an advocate.
This is the Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find the Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, the Monty Show live on your YouTube machine, Wednesday, May 28th, already 2025. Good to be with you, as always, presented by the Advocates at theadvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. Listen, we are now well into the 100 deadliest days on the calendar between Memorial Day and Labor Day. If you're on a bicycle, we're all out enjoying this beautiful weather, depending on where you are. Be careful, man. You know, cars, motorcycles, bicycles, kids running after bouncing balls do not go together. Please be careful. The Advocates remind you they are ready and willing and able to fight for you. That's right. When you go to theadvocates.com, you can chat with an injury attorney 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime. And you get clear, risk-free advice from the Advocates. I'm telling you, they're great people to do business with. I am so thrilled on this show in my career for the last, we're going on over 10 years, 12 years now, that we have known the greatness of the Advocates. We appreciate them being here. I am amazed at how many of our listeners have benefited from that relationship. So if you need an injury attorney, car accident, motorcycle accident, you get hurt at work, theadvocates.com. There's a lot of breaking news today. Real quick before we get to the Pac-12 in the Mountain West, because we have a pretty big update on mediation for you. As usual, Ross Dellinger has no understanding of how this show works.
Well, listen, I mean, he knows when the show starts. He watches it every day. So clearly, tweeting out this tweet we're about to show you at, 2:00 and 59 minutes. Not real considerate, Ross, if I do say so myself.
But what did we say yesterday about the SEC playing 9 conference games? When you Looney Tunes lost your mind on me because I said, hey, if I'm the SEC, under no circumstances am I playing 9 conference games in the current model. It's not happening. Because I ask you again, what is the upside for the SEC to play a 9th conference game in the current situation? Why would they do that? What is the net gain? There isn't one. And I think if we learned anything from the jackwagons on the selection committee, one, human beings are not intelligent and they cannot do things objectively. That's out the window, right? Number 2, playing a cupcake schedule is rewarded. Playing, teams in November that are D2, or you're getting rewarded for that.
Yes.
So if you are the SEC, who overwhelmingly dominated the top 10 with strength of schedule last year, overwhelmingly at the end of the football season, I think it was 6 of the top 10 strength of schedules lived in the SEC. And I'll continue to beat this drum. And we can argue in the comments section. We can argue all day long. The SEC is the best and deepest college football conference in the land. And if we need to duke it out over that, please let's do it. But this tweet today from Ross Dellinger is so compelling because it talks about exactly what I said. If you want to go to 16 teams and you're going to stack the seeding 1 through 16 based on their rankings without consideration for a conference championship game, the SEC will gladly go to 9 games. Gladly. Ross Dellinger, during a call earlier today, Big Ten ADs discussed a 5 AQ automatic qualifier an 11 at large college football model under consideration in the SEC. Many ADs say they would not support such a model if the SEC remains at 8 conference games. The Big Ten plays 9 conference games. But again, if we look at the stark contrast between the bottom of the SEC and the bottom of the Big Ten, Jake, I just don't see any value for the SEC in the current situation with the current format to play 9 games.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be said. I mean, this whole 8 versus 9 conference games, conversation, half of this conversation is just the rest of college football being a pain in the side of the SEC. I mean, let's be really honest and transparent here, that ADs in other conferences and, folks that are outside of the SEC, of course, they're going to say the SEC should have to play 9 games. Of course, if you're in the Big 12 or the ACC, your opinion's going to be, well, yeah, the SEC should have it as difficult as possible. If they have the best talent, it should be as hard as possible. And that level of thinking, or that way of thinking, has put those same people in a position where they're not the SEC, where they're not winning as much as they should win. And to me, I sit here and I look at this and I say, at some point, you're going to have to get on board with the fact that winning and winning national championships with regularity is really all that matters. And ultimately, you can sit here and try to, hold this process up and try to be a pain in the side, but there's no reason for the SEC to play 9 conference games, because all you're doing is you just want the SEC to absorb more pain. You want them to have to play the extra game just to say, oh yeah, everyone's playing all the same games. Well, why would the SEC play more games when the games they already play, one less game, are clearly of more significance, with better talent on bigger stages and have more meaning? The SEC slogan on ESPN that plays thousands of times during the season, it just means more. It's true. It does mean more, because it is the best talent in college football going at it. And while I agree the Big 12 was a hell of a quarterback league last year, and that's some of the best quarterback talent we've seen in quite some time, overall, top to bottom, it's not comparable. So what you should be saying in the Big 12 and the ACC, or maybe what you should be thinking or trying to get done in partnership with the SEC in these conferences, is, hey, how can we make it so that it's as equitable as possible for everybody? That's the word you should be using. Equitable. Hey, how can we make it so that the SEC feels like we're having to put in the same amount of work, but we also feel like we're getting a reasonable amount of value back? That's the conversation. This nonsense about 8 or 9 games is exactly that. It's nonsense. It's the wrong thing to be looking at. And it tells me, based on the fact that Ross is tweeting about this again, it tells me that ADs from other conferences are frustrated and pissed off and not in the mood to deal with Darth Sankey. And I'm just telling you, at some point, you got to change how you go about this, because you're not going to get your way or all of what you want either way. You're going to have to compromise.
That's right.
So
That's
at
right.
some point, these ADs and these presidents and these commissioners are going to have to come together and say, okay, what do we really want out of this? Because sticking it to the SEC hasn't really worked out for us to this point.
But I think, and again, I want to put this graphic up. This is what I was talking about. Here's the strength of schedule from last year. And everybody wants to talk about how the Big Ten is a better conference. How do you argue with this? How do you argue with this? This is the end of season strength of schedule from ESPN. When you look at the fact that it's Georgia, Mississippi State, one of the worst teams in the SEC, had the second best strength of schedule in the country. In the entire country.
So it kind of makes sense why they might be one of the worst teams.
Right? And you look at Notre Dame there, Michigan, Texas, Florida, Kentucky, Oklahoma, again, another bottom feeder team, and then Penn State. It's hard to argue with the fact that is built on the back of a really strong conference.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Oh, well, Monty, the Big Ten plays 9 conference games. Well, if you were the Big Ten, wouldn't you want to play 9 conference games?
It makes more sense.
Because, half of your conference is trash, and pretty much everybody agrees with that. right? Like the bottom half of the Big Ten, those are gimmies. Those are 2-foot putts that you're going to make every single time. That's a 1-foot layup. That's you're winning those games. You know what those games are, dude? Those games are, hey, let's look at their schedule at the end of the year and let's see a bunch of 65-3 type games. That's what those are for the Big Ten. So, of course, the Big Ten wants to play 9 conference games. So, again, it brings me back to the point. And I really do feel like we have to have this conversation today. And, yes, we will get to the Pac-12, but I really feel like this is a sticking point.
A big one.
At what point do the Brett Yormarks of the world, the Jim Phillips of the world, all the administrators, at what point do these people say to themselves, okay, we're sitting here, and it kind of harkens back to the Sankey clip yesterday about stop giving me problems, I want solutions and ideas.
Yes.
At what point do these administrators start saying, okay, okay, maybe the SEC is not going to acquiesce and play 9 games. They're never going to do that. But, if you're these people, maybe they're not going to do that. What is it that for the Big 12, let's say, what do we need to get out of this process? In my opinion, just the bottom line is you have to have your AQs. Those have to stay intact. That's a non-negotiable. But can you get anything else? Is there any other area where you can get any type of advantage to help your conference? That is what they should be looking at, not telling the SEC that they're lazy and they don't play enough games and it's unfair and, the SEC is trying to ruin college football. Like, at some point, you have to get over that.
And I continue to go back to what these coaches are saying. Listen to Brian Kelly, the head coach at LSU. Is he talking about playing the Big 12 or the ACC and how exciting that is? He's not.
The depth in this league from top to bottom, and that we are the premier league in the country.
But you could do that in the playoffs, though.
You can do it in the playoffs, too. Absolutely.
Okay.
No doubt. But you can also show yourself during the regular season in this opportunity.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks.
Got to play the Big Ten, dude. Got to play the biggest games in college football.
Your partners. It makes a lot of sense. And so when you look at the Big Ten and the ADs today, according to Ross Dellinger, who, again, we love on this show, he's one of the best in the business. Ross Dellinger saying many ADs in the Big Ten said they will not support a 5-11 model if the SEC remains at 8 conference games. And I told you yesterday, a TV source of mine told me there is absolutely no incentive for the SEC to add a 9th game if they're going to stick at 12, or they're not going to change the way that the seeding's done. The minute that seeding changes, you're going to see the SEC play 9 conference games. And why is that? Well, very simply, look at the rankings last year in the conference. Look at how many. If you look at the third column over, AP college football playoff rankings, look at how many in the top 16 you'd have had there. You'd have had 6 in the top 16 of the SEC last year. 6. Missouri would have been the one there that would have missed out. But you look at South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Tennessee would have had a home playoff game. If we'd have done straight rankings, Tennessee would have had a home playoff game. Texas, Georgia, it would have been a dominant 50% of the field would have been in the SEC. And if you're the SEC and you have that opportunity, sure, you'll go to 9 games. Because now, what is the saying? What is the tagline? It just means more, right? And when you look at what those games mean, and we start talking about how really important every single regular season game is, because how many times have you guys come on the show and said, oh, September doesn't matter, October doesn't matter? Well, now it does.
And apparently last year it did.
Yeah.
Ask Alabama.
I think it is really significant. And again, I'm not here to tell you that the Big Ten is a terrible league. And I understand we have a ton of Big Ten fans. But it's hard to argue that when you look at some of the finishes in that league, and you look at Purdue with an FPI of 120, Northwestern, Maryland, Michigan State, Wisconsin, not competitive teams. And you look at Rutgers playing the 62nd strength of schedule. The bottom half of the Big Ten is not strong. You look at even Washington, a new member of the league, played a pretty decent schedule, 12th in strength of schedule last year. Okay, well, I can get down with that. I understand why they're in the bottom half of that league when your strength of schedule is 12, right? But you look at UCLA, Nebraska, Iowa, at USC, who Jake hates with a passion. Minnesota was not competitive last year on the 45th strength of schedule.
But I think it's worth noting that at least with USC, and this is why I think the SEC Big Ten partnership works so well. At least with USC, like, you know, again, I always bring up the USC Penn State game, right, and how crazy of a game that was, and Penn State winds up winning it. But just the fact that if you look back to last year, you know, USC was involved in massive games throughout the year. Now, they may not have, they didn't win enough of those games, right? And that's a different conversation.
I'm sorry, I thought you said USC didn't win enough games.
You know, in you know, I'm choosing not to go down that route. We don't need to. But the point is more that you had USC on national TV multiple times for the Big Ten. And that's why I'm saying if you're the SEC, the other side of this, it's almost like a sort of like a twofold conversation if you're Greg Sankey. You've got all the whining, complaining folks, right, out of the Big 12 and the ACC. These folks that say, I should play 9, you know, Greg Sankey's ruining college football, you know, that crowd of people. Right? Ruined college football.
The devil.
You know, he's the Satan. Like, we get it, dude. There's that sector of people. But then I think for the SEC, there's this other side of it where Greg Sankey has to consider, okay, well, you know, how do we work with the Big Ten in a way where they don't become a better league than ours, but where they can help us push our league forward? Because that's what it is for them right now.
And I will just continue to say what Greg Sankey said yesterday. Strength of schedule has to matter.
Whether people want to agree with it or not, that's up to them. We can go through the analytics and show the rigor of our schedule is different than anyone else's, period. And we had a learning session in September at the CFP about strength of schedule, and strength of schedule isn't everything, but it is an important factor. I remember very clearly one of the messages was if you play the top ranked team and the 130th ranked team, those two games average out to 65.5. If you play 65 and 66, they average out to 65.5. And so the advisor said, you're just as well playing 65 and 66. Here's my problem. But for maybe one, maybe two teams in a year, we don't have 65 or 66, and everybody else has a group.
That's my point. So, again, I just ask you, why would the SEC, if it stays at 12, or if they don't get more opportunity to add more teams to the college football playoff? Because, listen, I'm sitting here telling you on May 28th, it's going to 16.
No doubt about it.
It's going to be a 5-11. It's going to 16. The minute that happens, SEC will play 9 games. If it never happens, what are you going to do to force them to play 9 games?
Nothing.
Because who controls it? The SEC and the Big Ten.
And let's say that it and again, it's going to go to 16, but let's say that
it is, yeah.
Let's say that it didn't, and it shrunk or something, you know, and there was less opportunity for the SEC. At that point, then your biggest problem is not that they don't play 9. Your biggest problem is you've only had, TCU in the college football playoff? Or in the national championship game, I should say. Obviously, you've had more in the playoff itself. But in the national championship game, like, you've only had TCU. That's it. Like, and that was a great game, and I was about that game. That was a great time in the conference. But my point is that all the graphics and the data and the narrative, all of it suggests, yes, the SEC controls this thing because they've won more than you, and they're constantly on TV more than you.
And I just go back to Ohio State. Ohio State is the one team in the Big Ten that you can point to and say that is what a great story. I think we're all disappointed Oregon fell on their faces the way they did. I don't think that is that an indicator of a lack of quality? It's not. But you look at that league, how many dominant programs are in that conference? Well, Ohio State, obviously. I think Oregon, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure. I don't think there's anybody else where you're like, oh, yeah, championship quality, great talent, great coaching staff. Like, it's certainly not the scumbags in Ann Arbor.
No.
Right? Like, I do not consider Michigan to be an elite football program. Like you look at how, I don't know how many people have been following the Santa Ono situation at Florida. Did you guys see that the Board of Governors, I believe it was, or the Board of Trustees, unanimously voted him to be president of Florida? Now he's got to go to the Board of Governors, who has to approve him, and then he will be the president. What is the number two thing outside of he's woke and DEI and outside of all of the bigotry? What's the second thing they bring up? He oversaw one of the most scandalous athletic departments in all of college athletics. Why do we want that at Florida? Like, you look at that, and that's why I think you just throw Michigan out, because I think those scumbag cheating liars in Ann Arbor don't deserve that respect.
Yeah, and I just think that, even if you, and I agree with all that, even if you take that out of it, you look at the roster, you look at where they're at, like you're not going to perform or be able to compete at a high level with the situation you're in right now.
Yeah.
So again, for the Big Ten, my main point has always been, in a perfect world for the Big Ten, and this is, I really think Greg Sankey and company think about this. Okay, we're the SEC, we have our group, but then what is the Big Ten's group that's on the horizon that could be dangerous for us? Because if the Big Ten has and then you've got, Penn State, you've got Michigan, you've got Oregon, you've got SC.
Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State. And then you've got Washington lingering. Some years they show up, some years they don't.
I have no doubt that Washington under Jed Fish will come back.
So in a perfect world, you would have 6 that are top 15 quality.
What scares you in the SEC is that they can do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to ask for your permission. And listen, I'm a Notre Dame fan. If you're new to this show and you probably may not know, I'm a Notre Dame fan. Born and raised in Chicago, love my Irish. One of the things that really disturbs me is we gave up our voting right so that we could have a place. Hey, if you're one of the 16 ranked teams in the country, Notre Dame's automatically in.
Notre Dame, our mother.
And now, thank you, sir. And now that the conference championship doesn't get you a bye, what incentive does Notre Dame have to join a conference? We have none. But the bottom line is we sold our soul to Greg Sankey in the SEC to make sure that we had a spot. And I am of the belief that there's nothing, if you're in the ACC or the Big 12, you're along for the ride.
Yeah, well, and I think, what's interesting with Notre Dame is, like, if you think about their position as an independent, obviously it doesn't behoove them to join a conference, but I think if you're looking further down the road, what does behoove them is to be an asset to the SEC. And that's exactly what they chose to do, because they've put themselves in a position where they've said, okay, cool, we'll get out of your way as long as you just guarantee us that if we play good football, we're in.
You've got our vote as long as.
And that's what I mean when I talk about, hey, well, if you're the Big 12 in the ACC, where is your equitable conversation with Greg Sankey? Because
exactly.
you're putting this dude in a position where he's standing up at a podium being upset with you and frustrated, not just with the Big 12 and the ACC, but I think generally frustrated that he just always gets criticism and there's never any ideas on how to push it forward. And then when he does put an idea forward, it's like, oh, well, you're ruining college football, or you ruined college football, or like, that's the problem we have. So again,
but wait, why do you hate Greg Sankey? Because I haven't even looked at the comments section yet.
And I already know what's there.
I'd really like you to explain to me why you hate Greg Sankey, because I don't hate Greg Sankey. I think Greg Sankey has been incredibly important for the prosperity long-term of college football.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what Greg Sankey is as an administrator and an operator is what you should want to be in your life. He does not care what you think. He does not care what others think. Greg Sankey is going to do what he thinks is best, A, for the SEC and its membership, and B, for college football and his partners. It is as simple as that. And if you don't agree with him, great, he's got all the control. What are you going to do about it?
Yes.
And my question is, what is it that you hate about Greg Sankey? Because I don't understand it. If you're a guy that owns a plumbing company, or you drive a UPS truck, or whatever it is you do, you should hope to operate the way that Greg Sankey does.
Yes.
He makes money. he puts money in the pockets of the people that he represents. He wins championships. Like everything that you want a CEO to do, he does. Yet you don't like him because he's not your CEO. You don't like him because, for instance, ACC fans and Big 12 fans in the comments section overnight losing their mind because I said that teams in both the ACC and the Big 12 don't necessarily care about winning every single snap in a football game. And I'm the guy who says your goal should be to win every single snap in a football game.
Yes.
And if you are a major college football coach, and again, I'll point to Marcus Freeman, I'll point to any coach that you want. They should have to earn their money every single week. Every single week. And yet we're happy to have in the Big 12, Dave Aranda and Mike Gundy still employed. We're celebrating that. In the ACC, you're celebrating the fact that 3/4 of this league doesn't give a rat's ass about winning football games.
And you're celebrating that SMU was your representation along with Miami.
And you have somebody in the ACC is a really good example here because you look at Florida State. Florida State, you hated Florida State because they're tearing this league apart. And then you wanted to get on board with them because, oh, Jordan Travis, that was I can't believe the injustice. And then they have a year like they had last year. Oh, they suck. I don't care what you say about Florida State. You know what I'm convinced of? They want to win every snap. You know why? They had one bad year, and it was bad. They fired everybody except the head coach. Brought in all new coaching talent, brought in all new talent on the
100%.
field. They're not playing around. You want to, everybody says that I knee pad Utah all the time. Oh, what did Utah do? Had a massively damaging and disappointing year in football.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
What did they do? Did they fire Kyle Whittingham? No, but what did Kyle Whittingham do? You think they had to whisper in his ear, hey, we gotta make a change? No, Kyle Whittingham fired his offensive coordinator. And not only that, ran out a bunch of talent on his offense, hired Jason Beck, a BYU guy, to be his offensive coordinator because Jason Beck was one of the most prolific offensive coordinators in the country who brought his quarterback in, and they've completely changed the way they do business on offense. And they already have the best, if arguably the best offensive line in the Big 12. Oh, by the way, what did they also do with basketball? Men's basketball.
And I think this is the better example.
Incredibly disappointing again. They fired the basketball coach. Did they do that after the season? No. You know when they did it? When the season died. The moment they were ineligible for postseason play, they fired their basketball coach. So you can hate Utah all you want. Mark Harlan wants to win every single snap. I guarantee it. And I wish that everybody in the Big 12, I wish that everybody in the ACC wanted that as well. They don't.
Couldn't agree more.
They don't. And why are we not talking about Tony Petitti, but we're talking about Greg Sankey? Because I got breaking news for you. Not everybody in the Big Ten is trying to win every snap. They're too busy having car washes in the locker room at Northwestern to win every snap.
But, I have to point out to that point, not everybody in the Big Ten needs to win. You know
That's
why?
true.
You know why? Because the Big Ten's got its group of 5, group of 6 teams, that are carrying the conference. So, Nebraska, Northwestern, any of these, Syracuse, any of these rando bottom level Big Ten schools. And Syracuse, maybe not a great example, had a nice year last year. Okay, I get it. But generally speaking, Syracuse and that group at the bottom, dude, they're inconsequential because they're bringing you value by losing, and you don't need them to win national championships. So I completely agree that everyone needs to win. But the difference is that the Big 12 actually needs everybody to want to win, and the Big 10 does not.
They're desperate in the Big 12 for everybody to win.
Yeah.
Okay, 26 minutes from right now, I promise you we will get to the Mountain West Pac-12 mediation update. Let's get your comments on this story. Ross Dellinger just broke. I think this is the 4th show in a row a news story has broken.
Phone calls or news stories.
Right when we're trying to get to air. Many ADs in the Big Ten say they will not support a 5-11 model if the SEC remains at 8 games. And we told you yesterday on the show, our sources are telling us, hey, if they get 16 and it's ranked 1 through 16 without deference for a conference championship, the SEC will go to 9 games. But there is zero motivation for anybody in the SEC to play 9 games if they don't get to 16 and it's not ranked 1 through 16. And why do you hate Greg Sankey? Who's first went in today? All the way back to the top. Hey, look at that. TJ back. Let the good times roll.
Facts.
Indeed. TJ, always good to see you. Sergeant Morhew, how are we today, fellas? Doing okay. Doing okay. Can't believe it's almost June already. Welcome to the nightmare. Here for another amazing show, guys. Hit the like button. Yes.
Yeah, hit the like button. Let's
Please hit the like button. That really helps the channel grow. We really appreciate when you guys hit the like button. We've had 1,001 views, and we only have 34 like buttons, so please roll. Matt Ritson, hello. Grad Slacker, Ryan Dooley, Lamont Tucker.
Sorry,
How about
sorry,
that?
Lamont.
How about that Santa Ono story, you guys?
That was a masterpiece of dog shit.
Santa Ono bails. I don't know. Who are you, Jim Harbaugh? Bails on Michigan right at one of the most difficult times. Gets approved unanimously by the Board of Regents at Florida, and then all hell broke loose. And now he's going to have to figure out if the Board of Governors at Florida will approve him.
Biggest kick in the balls you'll ever get.
It's going to be very interesting. Big Blue Horses, hello. Corey Hamill, hello. Afternoon from New Hampshire. Hello, New Hampshire. I don't know. Thanks for all you guys do. Best college football content on YouTube. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Big Daddy Magic. Hello, Big Daddy Magic. Good to see you. Sergeant Morhew, Bill, do you have time to watch this? You got dozens of videos to upload. Who's Bill? I don't know who Bill is. Old Greg. Let's go. Have a happy day, y'all. Same to you.
Hey, y'all.
Buffalo Hunter, hello. Jedi Order X. Hello there. Hello.
Who the fuck are you?
Love Muscle says,
Okay,
in Gloria we
bro.
trust.
Bro.
Who the fuck is that guy?
I don't know. His name is Love Muscle.
What am I supposed to do with that, bro?
What's an erection?
Chewy Gonzalez watching the Monty Show while in bed with the flu. Oh, Chewy, I'm sorry to hear that, bud.
See, that's what happens though.
Terrible
you talk
stuff.
all that junk yesterday, dude.
Yeah,
See,
if you missed
talk
the
all
show
that junk
yesterday,
The coronavirus.
Chewy was on a heater yesterday.
Hey, Chewy, isn't Chewy a California guy?
I think well, he's a Dodger. It's I'm sorry, a stinking Dodger. Why are you guys letting Shohei pitch?
What do you mean letting him pitch?
You and I both damn well know it's just a matter of how many pitches until his elbow blows up again.
Well, that's more than, they'll take 7 if they can get 7.
That's what I'm saying. Let's see. Drinking mead with Sam Adams.
Okay, again, what is this, the Boston show now, dude?
Okay, Boston.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing?
Living out west, we are all ears on this mediation. I still agree with you guys about a merger is the best idea. We'll have that coming up for you in 21 minutes. So, Monty. So, Phil
Hey,
Benzer.
Monty.
Did you see Dan Mullen's press conference today? I'm a sycophant that all I can think of is Dan Mullen's wife, like, just being really grab ass with the players.
Oh, there's no question.
Cubs investing $15 million in Wrigley Field, but $0 for pitching. It's what we do.
Yeah, well, the All-Star game's coming.
You
So,
know. Joseph Harper, hello. Like number 19, follow suit y'all. Appreciate
get
that.
to 100. Let's go.
Jesse Crum, Saban wanted 10 conference games. He hated playing FCS schools. Totally agree with that.
But that reasoning was different at that time.
Yeah.
Remember that.
I agree. Ryan Dooley, hello, Ryan. The Power 2 will eventually eat each other. Eat each other, just like the Power 2 at the Power 4 who ate the Power 5, who ate the G5, and so on and so forth. Who are you, a giant human centipede?
Yeah.
Bloody clean, methodical, and thorough.
I hope people understand. It's not as though And it's not as though Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti can just go do their own thing. And I've tried to tell people this for months and months and months. Greg Sankey fully is aware that you can't just say, get out of here, Big 12 and ACC. We're done with you.
Pack everything up. We're out of here.
That is not the way you grow
No.
revenue. That is not the way you help your constituents make more money.
But to his credit, he's never said that.
He has not.
He's never trying to be. He's never been trying to exclude people. That's never been Sankey's thing. But he just gets accused of that all the time.
I agree, and I think it is. I just think we get to this point where we can't on a regular basis. We cannot find a way to stop with the panic stuff, right? And when you look at Greg Sankey and you look at the things that he has said, he has consistently said one thing, pretty much on a daily basis. Everybody is trying to be us. It's not my job to lower ourselves to be somebody else.
I don't want to dumb down the Southeastern Conference to be part of some Super League notion with 70 teams that some people speculate would happen. They want to be us, and that's on them to figure it out, not on me to bring myself back to earth.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. And if that wasn't enough,
I don't need lectures from others about good of the game. I don't lecture others about good of the game. And coordinating press releases about good of the game. Again, okay, you can issue your press statement, but I'm actually looking for ideas to move us forward.
I mean, isn't that the kind of leadership that college football needs?
Yes.
Not the SEC. College football needs that kind of leadership because nothing happens without a prosperous college football. There's no college basketball. There's no stick and ball sports. There's no, let's put new Pebble Tech in the pool for diving season.
Yeah, Pebble Tech.
Right? That doesn't happen without a prosperous college football. And so maybe this is where we get into why do you hate Greg Sankey? Is it because he's not your guy? Because I can't think of another reason as to why you wouldn't. ACC Commissioner Gumby. Dude. From the desk of the Commissioner of the ACC West.
Dude. Yes,
My guy. I love it. David Persons, a member of the Monty Show for 5 months.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
David Persons is a TCU homer. Big 12 needs to get it that they need to win in the CFP. Amen to that. That's why that call against ASU last year, boy, that hurt, right? That hurt, and that hurt a lot. Sergeant Green. Hello, Sergeant Green. Good to see you. Phil Benzer, how Utah with 50K stadium can beat an SEC school with 80K has more revenue than Utah can't compete. I'm telling you. But this is, I don't think stadium size is not what wins and loses football games. Coaching staffs, recruiting, NIL, collectives. Why is Utah not one of the elite programs in the country? Look how far behind the curve they were. And all of our Utah fans show out. Any Utah fan will tell you Utah has been far behind the curve in NIL. Far, far behind the curve. And at one point, the players were the ones leading NIL at Utah. Obviously, that's changed.
Right.
But that's where this university was. Johnny Gonzalez, college football is not elite right now. Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois. Alabama loses to Vandy. And OU, Texas can't beat Georgia. LSU loses to USC. The loss is a home game. Loses a home game to Sharon Moore.
Mm-hmm.
What a wild year
last year.
But again,
they can afford that, right? They can afford to lose a game here, a game there.
Yeah, I would agree. Eric in Raleigh. Is college football there to develop human beings or make money? Because it's about money. Go to the NFL. It is about, we want this utopic thing where like, oh, we're the maker of men. Still very true.
Yeah.
Still very true.
Yeah.
But again, another guy everybody hates, Deion Sanders, makes money, makes men, wins football games. Right? Won at a high level last year.
Yeah.
That's what the best programs do. Ryan Day makes money, wins games, makes men. That's what they do. Right? Whereas at Michigan, you cheat, you lose, you lie about it, and you're a bunch of scumbags. I mean, it's who we should probably just
move on.
I mean, FSU has only 2 winning seasons since 2018.
Yeah.
But they have a brand. So when they win, it feels like a dynasty. You know, in all honesty, it's not like Florida State has been just a decade of dominance. They haven't been. Yet they have one season and then you lose the quarterback and everybody wants to file lawsuits and
yeah.
The ESPN contract was fraudulent. Turns out it wasn't.
There was a smoking gun.
You know, it is what it is. Scott says, outside of Georgia, who does the SEC have that's such a killer? Bro, are you being serious? Right now, you want to ask this question. When they had 6 teams that would have been in a 16-team format. 6. You're telling me if you truly believe outside of Georgia, did you not watch Jackson Dart and that Ole Miss offense last year? Forget their offense. Did you not see their defense? Did you not see Tennessee, one of the best defenses in the entire country last year? Got forced to go out on the road to Ohio State. I mean, you look at these numbers on the screen. Nobody thinks about South Carolina. 15th in the AP, 21st in strength of schedule. Nobody thinks that last year, nobody thought about Alabama. But yet they were 11th in the AP and 20th in strength of schedule. Right? Like you look at these numbers. Hell, even LSU had the 14th strength of schedule. And I understand that people don't want to give Texas credit because, well, everybody hates Texas.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're never back. So.
Texas and S trending up. Nick Saban isn't walking in the door at Bama, so Alabama was terrible last year. No, they weren't terrible last year. In what world are we living that Alabama was terrible last year?
Yeah, they weren't as good, but they weren't terrible.
I think Kalen DeBoer had one of the most difficult jobs in the country, and he did it very well.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly and LSU are a joke. Texas A&M is completely overrated. Okay, but by what metric are we going to say then? Like, so just throw out the rankings. 6 teams in the top 16 means nothing. If we look at strength of schedule, you're telling me this strength of schedule right here, it means absolutely nothing. Who are you, Michigan? Who are you, Ward Manual? You're telling me that means absolutely. The strength of schedule, this is the top 10 last year. Look how many SEC teams. 6 of the top 10 are SEC in strength of schedule. That doesn't mean anything. I'm trying to reconcile this idea. You just can't take your emotions out of it. And I don't know, is it jealousy? Is it frustration? Are you tired of Team SRT? Are you tired of Alabama and Nick Saban? Because you hated Nick Saban when he was there, and now you're saying he's not walking through that door anytime soon. So is it that you just hate the SEC in general?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, let's at least try to be realistic about it. If you truly believe that the SEC is just overrated, who do they have? There's nowhere to go from that. That's akin to he sucks. You know, Connor McDavid, they lost a game. Yeah, Connor McDavid sucks. That's what that's akin to.
Yeah.
Where do you go from, who else in the SEC is a killer? Tennessee? Georgia? Ole Miss? Like, that was a deep league last year. Texas? Texas isn't on the way up. Texas has been up. Since Sark got there, how much better is that team? Do you know the coaching staff that they have? Are you out of your mind? This is where I get lost with, I hate the SEC. I don't really have a reason why. Let's just make up some shit. Like that. That's where you lose me.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy to talk about should they play 9 games. I'm happy to talk about, hey, what kind of seeding should we have in the CFP? I'm not at all happy to talk about, well, Nick Saban's not walking through that door anytime soon. You got to give me more than nothing. You got to give me more than nothing. Let's not talk about stadium size. James will get excited and send 20 messages about it. Just kidding. Love you, James.
Well played.
Well played,
bro.
Well played,
very
sir.
well played there.
Well played.
Nice shot.
Eric and Raleigh, the ACC and Big 12 do the best job of excluding themselves, like it is their job.
Yeah.
This conversation always comes down to the Big 10 and the SEC, and it's because they win games. They win games. It really is as simple as they win games. And I can't understand your inability. And maybe Oak State, James, is the best example of this. Oklahoma State's embarrassing. You're
damaging.
You're in a league where you're supposed to be the brand. And as I have said every day on this show, you cut your head coach's salary because you said out loud, well, we need more money for NIL. So you cut the legend. Well, he's had 8 winning seasons in the last 10 years, Monty. Hey, congratulations. That means absolutely nothing. When you're writing his, Ring of Honor speech, or when we're looking at resumes, well, 8 years. And okay, cool. When it comes to the CFP, it means absolutely nothing when you did not win a conference game last year.
Just saying.
And you cut his salary, and then you said it was because you need more money for NIL. Come on, man. You got to do better than that. This must be an AI version of Monty. No one is coughing.
Dude, it's really, it's quite the development on the program, dude.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Jedi Order. All the other schools in the other conferences live by the motto, if you can't beat them, join them, in terms of the SEC, because why wouldn't you? Is it bad to be in business with the SEC? Is it bad to be in business and making scheduling agreements or doing whatever it is you're going to do, break away and form a new entity? Is it bad to be in business with the SEC? The answer is no, it's not. It's the only business, and it's a good business. It's running moonshine with the mafioso. It's the only business in town. And if you want to make money and you want to play at the highest level, you got to be in business with the SEC.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Welcome to the nightmare. Big 12 and ACC conferences need to get their act together before they get left behind.
Well, I don't think there's a danger of them being left behind. I mean, there's no doubt that the SEC and the Big 10 need them, but I think that the conversation around being in control of your future, that's a different conversation. I think you're slowly but surely working towards not being in control of that in the not so distant future.
Are you in control of it now?
I mean, I think on some level you are, but not entirely. No,
I'm not convinced you are. I am truly not convinced at this point in time today that the Big 12 or the ACC control their fate or their ability to win a national championship. I don't think that it is up to the people in the Big 12 or the ACC whether or not they win or lose. As simple as that. I don't. In what world does Brett Yormark determine who wins the national championship? In what world does Jim Phillips determine who wins a national championship of college football? Not the college football that we're currently involved in.
Yeah.
But in what world does Greg Sankey determine who wins a college football championship? This one right here. Tony Petitti is probably number 2, not even 1A or 1B. I think he's number 2. Greg Sankey controls who wins the national championship because he's the gatekeeper and he's going to control access. That's the reality of it. And so are they being left behind? I think they have been left behind. Truly, I do. I think they're very vulnerable. Oak State James says stadium size matters. Yes, he does. Actually, well, there you go. Oak State James is going to talk about blocking the mountain views at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City again.
Excellent strategy, sir.
He's about to tell us that we need more plush luxury seating.
CNS seating. Please.
Thank you.
Here's your game plan.
You know, like BDSM seating at Rice-Eccles Stadium to block the mountain view, which is what Oak State James has proposed in the past. Build a new upper deck so that you can have more BDSM seating. Beverage delivery, solemn mission seating. I think that's what that means. I could be wrong. Actually, I would say that Utah has a great home field advantage because their fans are loyal and loud. I've been to a game at Texas and it wasn't that loud. Okay, taking a shot at the Horns. Like button, you friggin' casuals. Yeah, let's go. Hit the like button. Big Blue Horses. Sankey is talking about ideas for the SEC moving forward, not the college football playoff or the game. You're out of your mind. You think he's not talking about the college football playoff? What part of what Greg Sankey said is, you tell me, and I could be wrong, but you listen to this bite and you don't think he's talking about the college football playoff.
The process of change is really exciting at the start. It's like running a marathon, which I've done a few times. Every time I've ever run a marathon, you can't sleep the night before. You're up early. You're at the start line. The start of anything is really exciting. And you go through that, and then you get to the end, and you see, running down Boylston in the Boston Marathon, or in Central Park in New York City, or crossing the river in Missoula, Montana to finish there. I mean, it's exciting, right? There's a finish line. The start and the finish is always invigorating, exciting, but the middle is messy, whether it's a marathon, whether it's decision making, whether it's change, and we are in the middle and it's messy. That's not unique to college sports. That's not unique to higher education. That's not unique to American society.
You think he's talking about just the SEC, nothing else? You're out of your mind. No, excuse me, Siri.
Whoa.
You really think that Greg Sankey there is talking about anything other than the college football playoff? Change is messy. I have no idea where you would come up with that. LOL, get over the Michigan thing. Well, I don't have to.
Whoa.
Oh, hey, where's your other Eric Wasikowski account?
The dynasty is not over.
Whoa.
There's nothing to get over with Michigan. They're irrelevant because they're a bunch of scumbag cheating liars.
I mean, we're just supposed to get over the fact that Matt Weiss, ruined people's lives. I mean, is that like, we're just supposed to forget about that, or?
Interesting. Good to see you as always. Seriously, Eric. Good to see you, man. Meat roller size determines CFP success.
Look at me.
Sources.
You're not wrong.
Jeff Woodworth. Hey, Jeff. How are you, bud? And there it is. And there it is. The video that everybody wants.
Oh, fucking God.
Jeff Woodworth in the house.
Thank you.
First statement I hear when coming in the show, Greg, everyone hates Texas. That's exactly right.
Well,
it is what it is.
That's exactly right. Big Ten beat the SEC's ass.
Okay.
Good question, Devin. Ohio State had their way with Tennessee and Texas. I think when I look at Ohio State winning the national champion, and I've said this 1,000 times, I think it is the singularly best championship we've ever seen in college football. That does not make the Big Ten better than the SEC. And again, we can keep going over and over this. You guys got to take your emotions out of it and look at facts. There's your top 10 strength of schedule dominated by the SEC.
Facts.
You look at the SEC, if we'd have had 16 teams last year, they'd be 6 of the 16. You look at the Big Ten, the numbers don't bear out your argument that it is a better, deeper football conference than the SEC. They just don't. And strength of schedule, other than jerk off at Michigan who doesn't want to do anything but give Penn State the easiest road and Ohio State the most difficult road, right? Other than that, how do you get around strength of schedule? How do you get around the fact that when you look at the standings in the Big Ten and you look at the quality of that conference, how do you get over the fact that Purdue, Maryland, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Michigan State, not bowl eligible? How do you get over the fact that you had UCLA, Nebraska, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue win less than 4 conference games? They lost more than half of their conference games. How do you get over the fact that USC, Rutgers, and Washington won 4 games? How do you get over that? How do you get over the fact that Minnesota quite literally can't score points? How do you get over the fact that you can't make the argument that they're a deeper conference in football than the SEC? When, frankly, in the SEC, you have 3 teams that weren't bowl eligible, and you look at the strength of schedule in that league, and you start understanding, like everybody wants to talk about, oh, Tennessee, overrated. Tennessee sucks. Tennessee, the only 10 I see. Okay, well, let's talk about Tennessee. Let's talk about Tennessee. Because if you look at Tennessee, right, and you start to look at strength of schedule, 16th in the country in strength of schedule. And you look at, they lost 2 games. One of them was to Georgia. They beat a ranked NC State team, a ranked Oklahoma team, a ranked Alabama team. And you're trying to make the argument that Tennessee's a joke? That's one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
I
That's
can't.
it's just not based on fact. It's based on emotion, and Big Ten fan is never going to,
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It is. And Jeff Woodworth makes a good point. Iowa had a Heisman quality punter. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I am willing to admit that the SEC has been the best conference in the last 10 years. If the Big 12 wants to have a better reputation, we have to do more than just compete with SEC teams.
What's the Big 12's reputation, James? I would love for people to answer that question. What is the reputation of the Big 12? I think that's a very fair question.
Yeah. Big Daddy Dallas. Sankey is a big blowhorn who loves to hear himself talk. Don't hate him. He just needs to get off his high horse. But why does he need to get off his high horse? And if he's a blowhard, that means he's just talking and he's saying nothing. He's just talking and he's doing nothing, man. He's just blowing hot air. Well, then help me understand why everybody hates him. If he's doing nothing and he's just talking, because he's actually doing things. He's deal making. He's putting his constituents in a much better situation. And I think he's exactly right. He doesn't have to lower himself to help the ACC and the Big 12. They need to raise themselves. Raise the bar. Fire Mike Gundy. Fire Dave Aranda. Get rid of the dead weight in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the losers in the Big 12. Make it impossible to sustain a losing program. Make it so that if your team doesn't go to a bowl game, you don't get a distribution in football. At a minimum, if you don't go to the college football playoff, you don't get college football playoff money. That's got to be the norm now, because your revenue distribution has to be merit-based. And maybe, I know it's crazy, maybe if they cut off your free supply of money, maybe you'll try to start winning football games. It's crazy, I know.
Wild.
You can't tell me that he's just a blowhard who needs to get off his high horse.
Can't have it both ways.
It's wild to me. It is absolutely wild to me. Okay, hour number 2 of the Monty Show is always presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's favorite daily fantasy app. You guys, we have a big in We have a big in coming up tonight. It's a closeout game for OKC. Do you like Minnesota to bounce back tonight?
I want to say yes, but after Buddy is in the post game, saying that 13 shots isn't him struggling, you have the wrong mentality right now, bro. You have the wrong mentality. And, I have to say, I looked at this game. Last game, you're a 10-point game out of Julius Randle away from winning the game. You're 2 possessions, 1 possession. If anybody does anything, to help Ant, you're probably in a better place. You're probably winning the game. So can they win tonight? Yes. Do I think emotionally they have it in them? No, probably not. Probably not. So I would lean OKC, but if we're just looking at prize picks, obviously you're taking the Anthony Edwards half a point,
If you've been on the fence, now's the time to get off the fence. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty, Monty, Monty. You deposit $5, he'll give you 50 more instantly. It's as simple as that. And if you're not taking Anthony Edwards, half a point, that's a guaranteed winner. So you just got to find one more. And I think one of the easiest wins here, Alex Caruso, you look at 3-pointers made, 1.5 on a demon is awfully tempting. But you start looking at like points and assists. That's a tough one. Points and rebounds is a tough one for him. Points, rebounds, and assists at 14.5. He hasn't hit that once. Do you go less? I mean, I think rebounds and assists.
Tough.
It is very tough. 3-pointers made. Will he make 1 3-pointer? I think he will. So I'm going to go half a 3-pointer made on Alex Caruso. And then I think Julius Randle has been one of the most reliable guys.
I don't know, bro. This has been a pretty inconsistent series for him. I like him, and the numbers say he should have a good night tonight. But
free throws made. 3 free throws made. God, that makes it tough. That makes it tough. Points and rebounds, 23. I feel pretty good about that. You don't like that one?
I don't trust Julius Randle. That's the problem. I look at, I like personal fouls. I like the number at 3.
You're such a hater on the personal fouls.
Well,
dude.
but think about the position he plays. I mean, 3 personal fouls for Julius really should be a gimme, but I'm not saying that as a slight. I just think that's how the game goes. But
what about SGA? He has got some really interesting numbers. 3-pointers attempted 5. He's only hit that twice in the last 5 games. So I'm nervous about that.
You should be going free throws on this guy.
But he's not a great free throw getter.
Attempts.
Right, 10 free throw attempts.
Yeah, dude, free throw merchant. Listen
he's
to
not,
Doris
though.
Burke, dude.
But Doris Burke's a lying scumbag.
Okay, well, listen, dude.
She went to
14
Michigan.
Okay, facts. He had 14 attempts last game. His number's 10. I feel pretty good about that.
Okay.
In an elimination game, you're telling me this guy's not going to get to the line?
Okay,
Come on, dude.
I'm going Anthony Edwards half a point more. Alex Caruso 1 3-pointer made more. And then SGA 10 free throw attempts.
More.
I should not listen to you. Every time I listen to Jake on Prize Picks, it goes poorly.
No Monties.
All right. Download the Prize Picks app. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantaneously. And Ian, I think you're not wrong. I stay away from Randall this postseason. I did. I stayed away from him. But it's fine. Let's get into the Mountain West and the Pac-12 because we've talked about this for weeks and weeks on the show. As we've pretty much led the news cycle on the Mountain West Pac-12 situation, we told you The Mountain West started mediation talks, got mediation scheduled for the 19th. We have told you that not a single member of the exiting members of the Mountain West has filed their letter or their $5,000 deposit on their exit fees, which must be done by June 1st. What are we, 4 days away at this point from that deadline arriving? But today we have an update for you exclusively on the show. Sources close to the situation tell us that mediation has, in fact, yielded fruit. They are making progress in mediation, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays. I think there is a belief that a deal can be done by the weekend. That's what I was told today, that there is momentum and there is an atmosphere of deal making going on, and that the Pac-12 has been much more amenable to suggestions than they had been earlier in this process. And I was also told today that there's never been a timetable, at least not a hard stop deadline, to get something agreed upon once mediation started. And this is why we told you, all the hyenas out there telling you, oh, it's going to be 5 minutes and the Pac-12 is going to drop the hammer. That was never going to be the case. I don't think anybody is, certainly not on this show, have we told you to expect a short and sweet process in mediation, because there's too many things to talk about. There's too much money changing hands. There's too much in the fine print of a deal to get done between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West for this thing to have been quick. I also am very confident, based on conversations I've had with sources close to the situation, that there is an environment where there is a possibility of collaborating. Are you
sorry about that?
You're going to make it over there? Like,
I'm sorry.
Good night. There is a possibility that the exiting members of the Mountain West are amenable to deal making. And I think what that means is that they're open to conversations about what a future relationship between the Mountain West and the Pac-12 looks like. I was straight up told that just because there's not a merger does not mean there will not be a relationship between the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Because I think outside of a guy like J.D. Wicker, who you're going to hear from in a minute, who continues to just be an embarrassment, in my opinion, to the Mountain West and the Pac-12, because the guy just won't shut up. But outside of J.D. Wicker, it's not as though bridges have been burned with the exiting members. Boise State has been very professional, is the way it was described to me in their conversations with the Mountain West. And I think those at the top of the Mountain West hierarchy understand that this was always a leverage proposition, that the exiting members were never going to do anything that was going to hasten this process along until an exit deal was made. I also think it's very interesting that once June 1st gets here, a lot of business is sitting on the table for the Mountain West to be done. I think you have to remember, you have summer meetings coming up in days after the deadline. So there is real business to be done. The Mountain West has an aim to cut their legal expenses and get to making money for 2026. So both sides of this have a lot of business to be done. But Jake, I don't think that there is any doubt that if there is onus to get a deal done, certainly there is more urgency on the Pac-12 side of this than there is on the Mountain West side of it.
Yeah, and I think that's been the case for some time. You know, the Pac-12 is the Pac-12 and its supporters and its group will tell you that they have all the leverage and all the power, and you know that's always been the narrative. But from my perspective, I've always felt like the Pac-12 has a lot more to lose here. I think that when you're talking about your existence being on the line, I think it's hard to have more to lose than that. And I think that if you can't find a proper deal here in mediation, if you can't find a way to, work together or figure out some possible way to get, discounts or, relief from these penalties, I just don't see how you move forward. Because again, people have been telling us for months, we've heard from multiple people, whether it was Wicker or other folks, the radio wizard in the Northwest telling us that, the Pac-12 was going to get this prolific TV deal and we knew what it was.
And we are crushing souls.
Yeah. So we've been hearing that rhetoric for some time. And I just think that if that was the case, you'd already done this and you would have come into mediation, in my opinion, with much more than absolutely nothing, in my opinion. Because let's be really honest, when you're negotiating, the person with the leverage has the power. And the Pac-12 does not have leverage and thus does not have power because they are the ones who are on the wrong side of the contract that everybody agreed to. And so when you talk about negotiating and mediating, like you're not going to walk into a room with the Mountain West folks and tell them what it is and what it has to be. And everyone wants to say, oh, well, the Mountain West has business that's being held up. The Mountain West needs to get things done. Yeah, but the problem is they've got another full calendar year before anything has to be done.
Well, and I think that's one of the more shocking details out of the last week or so is that there is a new sense of urgency on the Pac-12 side of the line to get this process finalized. I think the Pac-12 is finally, I don't know if a light bulb went on or what, but the Pac-12 group has finally come to a place where I think they recognize that they're not making the money they should be making right now, and that their legal fees have been substantial. The personnel and the time vampire that this mediation, negotiation, court case has taken up, it has been a lot more arduous than I think they thought. I truly think, after talking to sources familiar with the Pac-12's way of thinking, I think they thought that the Mountain West was going to fold. I truly, for the first time, feel like over the last 10 days, I truly feel like people in the Pac-12 offices thought that the Mountain West would fold and disappear. I think they had no idea that the Pac-12 would fight the way that it is fought. I think they had no belief that UNLV would do what UNLV's done, which is stay in the Mountain West and sign a long-form grant of rights. I think people in the Pac-12, based on what I was told, thought that once 1-2 members left, and really once San Diego State and Boise left, are the two that always seem to come up when I'm talking to people. Once those two left the Mountain West, that everybody would leave the Mountain West. And that simply did not come to be.
Right.
That did not materialize. It did not happen. The Pac-12 was caught off guard. According to my sources, the Pac-12 was caught off guard by how galvanized the remaining members of the Mountain West were and how quickly Gloria Nevarez moved to shore up her flanks. And I think she did as good a job as you could have done. And I understand that there's vitriol and people think that everybody hates each other. As far as I'm concerned and what I've heard, nothing could be further from the truth. And I'll go back to what we talked about last week. If the Pac-12 somehow, and I don't think it will, and I'm not saying that, but if the Pac-12 fell apart, multiple sources have told me the exiting members would be welcome back to the Mountain West. So nothing could be further from the truth that all the bridges are burned and everybody hates each other. That's not the way business gets done. Unless you're San Diego State and J.D. Wicker, because this I do not understand. And I have tried to give J.D. Wicker the benefit of the doubt. I have tried to tell you that, hey, when J.D. Wicker talks, you probably really shouldn't pay much attention to what he says, because we continue to go back. And if you go back, 6 weeks now, when he was in front of his folks talking about how, we're going to have a deal done by March 31st. And you remember.
At the end of next month, we will have the MOU done for our television deal. So we will know what our TV deal is going to be.
How did that work out?
It didn't.
It didn't. And then today, we get more video of J.D. Wicker. This is on a caravan tour for San Diego State sports. J.D. Wicker in front of a room of supporters, again, grandstanding.
Pac-12 continues to, while it's, none of this is moving as quickly as I would like it to move for us to get the answers that we want. Very pleased with where we are from a Pac-12 standpoint. Obviously, we have to add another team. That will happen. TV, I have a good idea of what our TV is going to look like with the Pac-12. Right now we're trying to wrap up various items around that, but we have a really good idea of what that's going to be, and we're pleased with what that is going to be. From a Mountain West Conference mediation standpoint, as we talked about our exit fees, We did have Mountain West Conference mediation that was publicly announced. It was last Monday, a week from last Monday, or this past Monday. That continues to progress. So a lot of, feels like the next, what are we at? We're May 27th. The next 4 or 5 weeks, there's a lot that's going to happen that's going to help dictate what we're doing moving forward. So
there's a lot that's going to happen to dictate what we do moving forward. So we went from March 31st, an MOU will be done and we'll have a new TV deal and we'll have exponentially more reach to, well, here we are on May 27th, yesterday. The next 4 or 5 weeks will determine our future.
After Pac-12 folks had said that there was going to be a deal by the end of 24.
It's remarkable to me that JD Wicker won't shut up. Stop talking. Like, you are hurting your brand. I think you are hurting the Pac-12. Stop talking. When you and ah, and you got to look at your watch and you're spinning. Dude, you are humiliating yourself on a regular basis every time you stand up there. And what now has to be just tell half-truths and fabrications that never come true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
How can anybody trust what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'll double down on that. I wouldn't even be so generous to call it half-truths. I think that he doesn't know when a TV deal is going to be done.
I agree.
I think that if you did know when a TV deal was going to be done, you wouldn't be commenting on it.
You're the only one in the conference commenting on it.
The conference commenting on it. And, you know, I just think that JD is a guy who's always tried to be out in front of things and be the first one, not caring
and be
if you're right.
Be the guy, and I'm the speaker.
I mean, this harkens back to screw the Big 12. We're joining the Pac-12.
The pro rata we deserve.
Pro rata.
And I would remind you, JD Wicker talks about, exit fees. And why are the exit fees set up the way they're set up, JD? Oh, that's right, because you guys exited the conference when you sent that letter and then said you didn't, but tried to and you were going to. And so now everybody else in the Mountain West, and you signed it and agreed to it, changed the exit fees, and you got to have a letter by June 1st and a $5,000 deposit on your exit fees. So there's no question whether you're leaving the conference, because you sent a letter and then denied that you sent a letter until you were shown the letter that was sent to the commissioner and all of the other membership saying that you were leaving the conference. And now you don't like those rules, so you want to get involved in a lawsuit and, you know, try to figure out how we can not pay to leave the conference yet again.
Yeah, don't like the rules applied to yourself. Come on, bro.
Come on.
And what's annoying is it's more of the same behavior. You know, people want to try to tell us all the time, well, Pac-12 is different. The Pac-12 is different. You know, these people are different. They've changed. And it's like, no, dude, they haven't changed. And I'm just curious. And again, I agree that generally speaking, most people shouldn't be talking about this if you're involved in the situation. But at what point does Teresa Gould talk again? At what point do you address the situation?
When it's done. When it is done. Because I think when you hear JD Wicker talking about the exit fees, of course he's referring, and I'll play the bite again, he's referring to the exit fee lawsuit with Colorado State and Utah State. What else could he be referring to?
Pac-12 continues to, while it's, you know, none of this is moving as quickly as I would like it to move for us to get the answers that we want. Very pleased with where we are from a Pac-12 standpoint. Obviously, we have to add another team. That will happen. TV, I have a good idea of what our TV is going to look like with the Pac-12. You know, right now we're trying to wrap up various items around that, but we have a really good idea of what that's going to be, and we're pleased with what that is going to be. From a Mountain West Conference mediation standpoint, as we talked about our exit fees, we did have Mountain West Conference mediation that was publicly announced. It was last Monday, a week from last Monday, or this past Monday. That continues to progress. So a lot of, feels like the next, what are we at? We're May 27th. The next 4 or 5 weeks, there's a lot that's going to happen that's going to help dictate what we're doing moving forward. So,
what Monday? What exit fees? Like, this guy is such a used car salesman. Like, I feel terrible for San Diego State fans. In my opinion, he's not a good athletic director. In my opinion, I think he is telling half-truths. In my opinion, J.D. Wicker has no business speaking or representing the Mountain West or the Pac-12 or San Diego State, because every time he does, it goes horribly wrong.
And I'm just trying to understand what's the strategy, JD? What do you think that continuing to talk and continuing to comment and continuing to feed this line of, half truths or just unsuredness, if you will, to your supporters? I don't understand it's almost like every time I hear him talking about this, I feel like he's talking to folks that he's like in desperate need of money from. It's like that guy that, it's like that guy in a movie who is like in desperate need and has to sell someone on something that they have no idea what they're talking about, but they're like, oh yeah, this is going to be amazing and this is going to get done and everything's amazing. Give me the money. I'll make sure I pay you back. Like, that's what it comes across to me as. Like, yeah, you're just spinning and like trying to put out this narrative, but ultimately there's nothing here. There nothing can be done and nothing will get done until mediation is concluded. And I got to tell you, I'm not confident that there's going to be some amazing deal for the Pac-12 coming out of mediation, that they're just going to get some grand discount on exit fees and poaching fees. And like, I just think if you assume that the conference is getting those discounts, I don't know where you're getting that from.
I struggle with this idea that either one of these conferences, unless they merge, without a merger, neither one of these conferences will thrive. I don't think either one is significantly better off, and Pac-12 fans will piss themselves all the way to the ends of the earth saying, oh my God, Boise State, we have the better football brands. Okay. Does that mean you're getting $10 million a year? Because that's what every Pac-12 fan seems to think. But
listen, I mean, am I wrong for feeling like if you don't get a big discount mediation on these poaching fees and exit fees, if you don't find a way to save money through mediation, it's going to be really difficult for you to ask these schools to officially join this conference?
What is the net gain? Because if the net gain is that you're simply saving on legal fees, that's not a net gain.
No.
I understand that going to mediation saves legal fees. It ends the process sooner. Less money going to the lawyers. Totally get that. And this is a conference in the Pac-12 that has been largely overrun with legal fees of their own making. And it just continues to be who they are as a conference. Sue people, be involved in litigation.
Yes.
It's not the right way to do business. And then that's why, like, J.D. Wicker talking is not good for this conference because he doesn't know dates. He's stumbling over last Monday, next Monday, this Monday. He's struggling to understand, hey, the past, like, dude, why are you the only one that we see when you talk, you're on video? Why are you the only one? Why are you out in front in public in the first video? Why yesterday are you on a barnstorming tour giving updates on a legal proceeding? Like, why are you doing that? The source that I've been talking to regularly is very clear. Hey, we have all agreed not to divulge details. The only thing is, hey, we're making progress. I can give you that we're making progress. It has been a good session. We are making progress. And in talking to administrators at universities and people directly involved with the situation, people feel really good that a deal is going to get done on one level or another. But you don't see people doing interviews. You don't see people talking about TV deals that are going to be done. And my guess is, to your point, if you don't get a substantial win, everybody's talking about how the Mountain West owes UNLV $60 million. Or what do you think you guys owe Boise State and Gonzaga? What do you think you owe? Do you think that there's just no money that you're going to have to pay people? Does it not bother Pac-12 fans at all that you don't have a grant of rights? You don't have a conference charter. you don't have a membership agreement. Because until those exiting members and the new members of your conference put a pen to paper, you haven't got anything.
So this is my point. We keep talking about, hey, if a merger doesn't happen, neither will thrive. I'm struggling to understand how if a merger doesn't happen, there will be a conversation about two conferences. Because I don't understand how you're surviving if you don't merge or if you don't get significant financial relief from these penalties. I get that there's a path forward where, hey, okay, we get the mediation. Let's say you get no discount, you pay the fees, and then there's this digging out process, right? Where the conference still exists, but you're gonna have to find other ways to make money. And okay, cool. But even at that point, you're still talking about not being able to fulfill obligations to these new member institutions that you clearly promised things to get to join your conference.
Yeah, I'd really like to see these two merge. And it's a long shot, I would think. It's the right thing to do.
But the problem is that mechanically it doesn't have to be a long shot. Like from a business sense, it would not be difficult to do. The problem is it's a long shot because a certain sect of people in the room have pride and refuse to discuss merging. That's the problem. So we inevitably talk about this all the time, and I inevitably get to this place where I'm like, okay, well, if you're unwilling to merge, and we're only in this conversation because you did exactly what you said you wouldn't do in the contract you signed, how am I supposed to feel empathetic towards your position? How am I supposed to feel like, oh man, dude, I feel so bad for the Pac-12? How am I supposed to feel that way when you literally signed a document that said you're not allowed to poach schools out of the Mountain West, and your plan is to poach schools out of the Mountain West and then say that you shouldn't have to pay for that? I don't know how we're supposed to feel sorry for the Pac-12.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants you to feel sorry for them. My biggest question is how do you come away with confidence? Whether you're the Mountain West or the Pac-12, how do you come away with confidence that you will have the revenue to fulfill the promises you have made? That's the question. The Mountain West is obviously in a better position. They have a full conference. They have a TV rights deal. And they are in a position where they are working ahead of schedule on their renewal of their TV deal.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion is, based on people in the TV industry I've spoken to, that the CW deal and the ESPN CBS streaming deal, I think, is pretty similar to what the Pac-12 will get going forward, because ESPN needs the digital content. But the problem with that is digital content does not pay the way that linear TV deals pay. And I think the Pac-12 fan is locked on this $10 million per school per year number. You're crazy if you think you're going to get $10 million. And is that gross or net? Because again, if you're in business with the CW, look at the deal that the Pac-12 did this year. Where's the big press release talking about what a great deal it is for the Pac-12? That hasn't happened. And why is that? Because it's not a great financial deal. Is it good to be on ESPN? Is it good to be on CBS? Unequivocally, it's a win. But at what cost? Because you're paying to produce those games. The CBS and specifically, I know that the ESPN part of that deal, ESPN's covering all of the talent fee, including the producer and the director in the truck, the play-by-play guys, the sideline reporter. The Pac-12 is covering the physical production of that. Cameramen, truck costs, equipment, all of it. And I'm again going to tell you, if those are the deals that the Pac-12 is going to make, and they'll announce, let's say they even announce $10 million per school, what's the net? Not the gross. Hey, because remember, Teresa Gould is famous for saying, and this is, again, in the J.D. Wicker realm of why did you say this, is the deal they signed for this season. The CW, ESPN, and CBS both get a game. Is this transformative, or did the TV partners, the distribution partners, cut you a check? Because it sure seems like they cut you a check and you're the one producing the game. Does it meet this bar?
You know, the one thing I keep saying to potential partners is, given where we are as a league, I don't want these partnerships to be transactional partnerships. I don't want this to be a media rights partner writing us a check and televising a bunch of games. We need these partnerships to be transformational at this point, and for somebody to really jump in with us and say, we want to help elevate and reimagine the new Pac-12.
Yeah.
You have a transactional deal. Quite literally.
But you didn't have a choice in this case.
You're on the CW and you get a game on ESPN and CBS, and that's it. They paid you. You're handling the production. That's a transactional deal. In no way, shape, or form is the deal that we have for this coming year in the Pac-12 a transformational partnership.
Yeah, and I think the hard part is that you didn't put yourself in a position to get that kind of partnership.
Nope.
You know, and I think, you know, the hard part is, you know, I don't know, you probably would know this better than I do, but you know, TV partners like the CW or, you know, ESPN or whoever you want to look at, you know, it matters how you conduct business. I mean, we learned that lesson through the old Pac-12 negotiations with ESPN, right? We all remember the ask of $500 million from George Kliavkoff to ESPN, and how just you know, asinine that ask was. And so I sit here and I listen to Teresa Gould, you know, in that clip that we played so many times, talk about transformative partnerships, I should say. And I just sit here and I say, well, if you want that level of partnership, I mean, isn't there this factor that you have to show that you're worthy of that level of partnership? I mean, if you're a TV, you know, like if you're a TV partner, you're sitting there saying, okay, we gotta be real careful with how long we're committing to this proposition and at what level we're committing to. Because yes, that late night window is valuable, but let's be really honest. That late night window is already covered. The Big Ten has that late night window. So,
and there is room there. There is room there for another product. I'm not going to be convinced there's room for the Pac-12 and the Mountain West to go head to head for a late night TV window contract. I just don't see it.
I completely agree.
So when we look at this, and the surprising part of this today, to me, is that yes, I'm told in very scant detail, without much detail, progress has been made. Because that's what I can tell you. I'm willing to tell you progress has been made. On what? On how? Not going to comment. Cannot tell you. And I was told directly, hey, everybody involved has agreed not to leak, not to talk to the media, not to let out what we are discussing in detail. So, and it's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And the word that was used is, we agreed to put a lid on the mediation. And they have. You have heard almost no details, right? And that's how it should be. So JD Wicker talking yesterday on a barnstorming tour is absolutely ridiculous. It's foolish, in my opinion. It is a bad decision from a guy who, in my opinion, has routinely made bad decisions in JD Wicker. It just, and when we look at who's got more to lose, I don't think there's any question it's the Pac-12. Because I think we're past the point of the Mountain West is no longer in an existential crisis. Like, will they exist? Yes. The Mountain West will exist.
Yes.
Because you're not, the only way that league would have been in real peril is if they'd have gone to court and they'd have lost every decision. And they would have got no exit fees and no poaching fees. And okay, now you're in real trouble. But that's not going to happen. That's not even possible at this point. So I think that we aren't in an existential crisis necessarily. And I don't know that either league is, but I do believe that the Pac-12 has a lot more unanswered questions. And it is mainly who's going to be in that league and where's the transformative media rights partnership that Teresa Gould espoused about?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that because everybody I talk to in television says this deal that they signed for this coming year is going to be remarkably like the deal that they get going forward. And if this is a deal that they have going forward, I think it's not transformational.
No.
I do not. Because I think both the Mountain West, and this is not new, I said this last week, I think both the Mountain West and the Pac-12 will be on ESPN's digital platform. I think part of their deal will involve ESPN because ESPN, as you guys know, is going to direct to consumer with ESPN, their streaming service. It'll be direct to consumer, everything for a monthly cost. You need a lot of content, and you need like a shotgun approach to content. So I can see a lot of both the Mountain West and the Pac-12 involved in that ESPN situation, but the cost is not going to be nearly what it would be for a traditional linear broadcast television deal. So that's something to keep an eye on. All right, your thoughts on it? Let's go. Look at that. Calford back in. 20 Monty Show membership. Calford, we appreciate your support as always. Look at everybody picking them up. Pick them up. Not SC Notes, though. Okay. Dan Kinnersley, Two Mastas. Look at Two Mastas back in the membership. Steve Lutt, Alberto Vasquez, MBM, Don in Kansas, Mark Ruckert. Mark, where have you been? Good to see you. M. Brownie 22, Michigan Sports, Richard Gray. My name's Dick.
Dude, it's Richard and Dick.
Russell Connor T, good to see you. Sparse, Joe Lindsay, Jacob DeLambo. DeLambo, good to see you. Zach Lake, also back in. Everybody appreciate you guys very much. Calford, appreciate you. Everybody picking them up. Joey B. Monty, can we get some background music? No.
Why do you want background music, bro?
Okay,
wow, man.
That's the ending of the music. Man. No background music. Capazzo, Monty, you just had to go there. Go where? Go where? Stadium Guy James, I'm 100% agreement with Monty and Jake. Mountain West and Pac-12 need to merge right now. And I would say Gloria Navarez should be the commish. But I'll just keep saying over and over again, I think Gloria Navarez is the right person to be commissioner. But if the circumstance put itself forward, and Gloria has not told me this, and my opinion is, based on what I've heard, Gloria is not going to stand in the way of a merger. If she can't be commissioner, she's not going to. That's just not who the lady is ethically and from a business standpoint. What's best for you when you're a commissioner, Greg Sankey or Gloria Navarez, you have to do what's best for your membership. And a merger is clearly, by pretty much everybody's measure, best for her membership. If she couldn't be the commissioner of that, I think she would step away without a fight.
Yeah.
I think she is not the person who's going to be like, well, if I can't be involved. Because how many times has she tried to get a merger going? And the Pac-12 has routinely said no. So, is what it is. Seth Hatmaker, there's a gag order. I don't know that I'd go as strong as to say there's a gag order.
There's an understanding.
There is. There's a lid on it's pretty, Johnny Gonzalez. I have not heard a single sniffle. Not one. Capazzo, not the Jeezy. It's too hot now for golf. It is.
Yeah. We're past it.
It's going to be, but it's going to cool off. I need a trip down. Certain people sitting on this set here in the Monty Show compound.
Hey, Monty.
Did not want to go to Wolf Creek this year. I really wanted to go to Wolf Creek, so do the math as you will. Why didn't you want to go to Wolf Creek this year?
I'd rather go to Copper Rock. If we're going to go down there. I mean, Wolf Creek is great. Love, of course. Very cool. Very scenic. But from a pure golfing perspective, Copper Rock's where it's at, in my opinion.
There's a lot of great golf in... I like the ledges down there.
Ledges is good.
I like a lot of the courses down there.
Black Desert's one we haven't played yet.
Yeah. Let's give that some time, in my opinion. I there's a lot of golf in the GZ, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Leave them hanging on the line. Calling Gloria. I think you got my number. I think she would be selfless in that situation. John Nelson, Pac-12 will add Texas State and Sam Houston State. Why? I think this is a really interesting conversation. And a lot of Pac-12 fans, I think, either don't know, or a lot of Pac-12 fans are like, oh, we're just going to add Sac State. It'll be fine. Sac State's not eligible. The earliest they could join the Pac-12 would be 2027. I think you cannot just throw any old club in there to get your 8th member and be, like you cannot do that.
Well, and I think what Pac-12 fan, like this guy John here, is trying to say is that we're going to add schools in the Texas market to sweeten the pot for the TV partners. And I just don't know that. Maybe it does. Maybe adding those 2 schools just makes it astronomically better. But I don't.
Bro, I just got a purchase confirmation for $1,000 in golf balls. Like, I did not order $1,000. I did not order. And listen, I love Pro V1 like everybody else.
Bro, is this from like an overseas golf ball maker?
No, it is. It is a text message and an email directly from Titleist. Like, I did not order $1,000 in golf balls. We're gonna have to check on that. What is that about? What is up with that?
Does it look legitimate to you?
Yeah. It's $1,175.36 in Pro V1X. I don't even play Pro V1s, by the way, for anybody who knows golf. I don't even play Pro V1. I play TaylorMade Picks. Is my ball of choice. Anyway, we'll have to, it'll be interesting to see who they add. Boy, you certainly don't like seeing that.
Yeah, is like your credit card number on there? Like what? I mean, we can't just skip over this now.
It doesn't say. It just says that
don't click any links, obviously.
No, I got it's legitimately from Titleist. Out on shots. Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that. Oh, it says 0 balance. It says there's no charge for 1,000. Who's sending me $1,000 in golf balls from Titleist? I'll have to look at that. I'll get back to you guys on that.
Bro?
What?
That's weird, bro.
I've had some weird stuff lately. Like, it's not you guys know I'm a PXG guy. I love PXG. They don't pay me anything. We have a partnership with them.
I mean, $1,000 in Pro Vs is like 3 Pro Vs. So, I mean, it won't,
half three Pro V1X is cut in half.
I mean, it's
how much? Because that's $50 a box.
Yeah. So what is that? What is that? What, 100 boxes? No, not that many.
No, it's $1,175.36. If you divide that, because it's $49.99 for a box of Pro V1X. That's 24 boxes. Who's sending me 24 boxes of Pro V1s?
I don't know, bro. Do we have any Titleist folks listening? Is that what this is?
That's very interesting. But like, you're sending it. Is the address? Yeah, it's my correct home address.
Someone's texting you now?
Yeah, like.
So the address on it is correct.
The address on it is my home address.
Bro, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know who that would be.
We'll have to do some research on
maybe
that.
It's the Monty Ghost,
Maybe it is the Monty Ghost. I don't know. I mean, I'm not kicking.
Dilly.
BYU sending Monty Pro V1s. Not after the Jake Rutzloff conversation we had. Patrick Roybal, PXG, we do things differently, made by small Mexican Chinese children. Still one of the best. Now, I think that PXG is a great brand. I am a big fan of PXG. I hit their clubs exceptionally well. John Nelson, I mentioned Texas State and Sam Houston State because the Pac-12 will not get a Mountain West nor an AAC school. I don't know where they go. I'm not in the business of they won't or can't. I think it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, Johnny Gonzalez, ePay sending you golf balls. Could
Apparently,
be.
I mean,
Guy's got money to burn. Joey B says fishing. Well, it could be, I guess. It very well could be, but we'll see.
I don't know. What I think is interesting is that it's an email and a text. It's not just.
It's an order confirmation.
Yeah, like it's
is
not
what it is.
just. It's not just the rando email or like.
Oh, here's an interesting. Well, if you guys hated Greg Sankey before,
Let's make it worse.
Apparently Greg Sankey is on the Paul Feinbaum show, which I know you guys already hate, right?
Pretty much.
And we started the show today with that breaking news from Ross Dellinger. Greg Sankey tells Paul Feinbaum on the college football playoff, part of my concern right now is all the time we've wasted in the CFP not making decisions has created a time crunch for us. We may not have the needed CFP clarity. That is a concern, and sufficient time to make a decision on 8 or 9 games, which tends towards people think about 8. I tend to think we should play 9 and we'll be fine. We won't have a decision here on scheduling. I don't want to flip a coin again on live TV. Now, not to tell you Uncle Monty was right.
Hey, Monty.
Right? Not to tell you that Uncle Monty was right. But again, I'm just going to continue to say, I think when you listen to a guy like Greg Sankey saying, if we get a schedule, we can play 9 games. I'm telling you the same thing that I've told you now for several days. The SEC does not stand in opposition to playing 9 conference games. The SEC stands in conference to playing 9 conference games, or stands in opposition to 9 conference games if it's going to damage their abilities to win a national championship. Which, if we stay at 12 and conference champions get bye weeks, it damages the SEC's ability to win a national championship. So why should they move to 9 games?
Don't know.
If you're not going to rank the college football playoff 1 through 16, why should they play 9 games? There is absolutely no reason for them to do that. And nor would I have them do that. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that, Greg is always going to consider all the options, but I think you have to have a really strong case as to why they should, or why they have to, or why they should have to change their setup. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think it is going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out. I mean, it's tough. Calford says it's from Oak State, James. Well, he is rich.
Mm-hmm.
He is rich. Jeff Woodworth, Okie State James gifting Monty 20 boxes of Titleists.
Did this pallet of Titleists come from the same folks who sent you that pallet of chicken that one time? You remember that? Is that
no.
the chicken you got on the pallet?
Yes. The Impossible
Nuggies. The Nuggies.
Those were amazing.
Yeah, those are amazing.
No, we have occasionally get stuff sent to us. Callaway is sending us a new putter. A jailbird putter. So I wouldn't say that I'm not an influencer. I play a lot of golf and I make a lot of golf content. And so opportunities tend to come your way. And I have been in the market for a new putter. But I am not somebody that I take my putting very seriously because I putt very well. But I need a longer, are you guys ready? I need a longer shaft.
The CAC.
So I'm a big fan of the Odysseys, which is owned by Callaway.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is owned by Callaway.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that, and it's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean that's I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun to use that thing.
Yeah. And
has anyone texted you yet to claim responsibility?
No, I have not. Although Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if it's real. I don't generally accept a lot of gifts like that. If somebody out of the blue just sent me 24 boxes of Pro V1s, I would not accept it. Like, I'd need to know if Titleist sent them to me. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if I think it'll be very interesting to see, because there is a shipping link.
Man, I am really fascinated by this, bro. Like, what? I'm really curious who sent this to you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Really curious.
And UPS, I have a UPS account, but it doesn't say who the shipper is.
Mm.
So that, for my money, is always a little sketch. So we'll have to see.
But I think, like, it's funny that we're talking about Titleist, because I feel like, the PXG ball is pretty close to the Titleist ball. Like, honestly, like,
you played a Top Flight this weekend and hated it.
I did not like it. The Top Flight felt plasticky to me. It felt kind of, and it was a nice Top Flight. Admittedly, it was one of their nicer balls.
Top Flight's kind of a hot new.
It's the new kid on the block
golf
for
ball,
high performance, 3-piece golf balls.
Yeah.
And the thing is that like last year when we were playing at like Canyons and these different courses, you could really tell that because, like, I play a lot of Kirkland ball. I like Kirkland's ball. I really like Noodle's ball. And then this past weekend I was playing TaylorMade's TP5. And I feel like the TP5, the PXG, and the Pro V1 are very close.
Very close.
I think the Kirkland is one step below, and
it's not as good. It's not as good inside of 50 yards.
Yeah, the Kirkland's
ball.
Definitely a little bit harder to control. I think the TaylorMade in the intermediate sort of wedge, portion of your bag is really, really good.
The TP5 picks that I play, spins too much. If I'm being honest, my biggest issue, and I feel like this weekend I really kind of had a breakthrough in my short game, like is around the apron and again chipping inside of 50 yards. Like, I had a 120-yard 50-degree wedge that was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to me overwhelmingly is the ball will either stop dead or it will spin back away from the hole. My biggest problem lately is I've been landing pin high and spinning backward. I had a lot of problems with that this weekend. So I played up in Park City, and 3-4 times I spun the ball back off the green. And it's a big problem for me. So we'll see. But a lot of breaking news happening. Let's get back to this should the SEC play 9 games situation. Here's Greg Sankey on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
And it's not all about the CFP. So recall our past conversations. There's a segment of our membership highly focused on, if you go to 9 games, is that an asset or a liability in CFP selection? It leans more towards liability. There's a segment who says, you know what, we'll play the games, we're going to be successful, and we'll be fine. And we saw some really difficult schedules. Georgia had an incredibly difficult road schedule and was the second team in the CFP rankings. We were fully supportive of the bracketing change that's there for this year. On the other hand, when you go back to others who just want to think about bowl games, the potential for another loss to get to that 6-win threshold, you really have to process through what do bowl games look like in the future, and some of the issues we've had around portal entries and attrition within a team. We talked to ESPN about what that might mean for us together collectively. So it's actually a reduction in inventory. So you're taking a week of non-conference games where there could be 16, boiling that down to 8 if you go to 9. We need some clarity around CFP direction, though. I think that becomes the most prominent issue on the list of evaluation points.
There's Greg Sankey. I can't say I disagree with him. I mean, when you look at the way that he's talked about the 8-9 thing, I have no idea why they want to play 9 games. I think it makes it harder to schedule big out of conference games. I think you look at what that does with just 3 slots now. It takes away Alabama playing, who was it last year? Mercer. It takes those cupcake games away. And I think what this tells you is we are moving to an era in college sports television where the big matchup early in the season, that made for TV game, that's going to happen more and more and more. Because now I think if you don't need to be a conference champion to get into the college football playoff, strength of schedule is going to be exponentially more important. And you had better have, I think the number's probably going to be 10 P4 games on your schedule. That's what you're going to, because it's going to be, in my opinion, strength of schedule and your record against P4 teams.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest issues college football faces in the bigger picture is like, obviously strength of schedule has always been a metric that we all look at, right? The AP voters, Greg Sankey's of the world, everyone looks at strength of schedule. But we've never had that uniform, hey, everybody has to play by the same, metric, whether it is, you got to play 10, you have to have 10 ranked games on your schedule every year. Or like, as an example, like, I could easily see a scenario if we're going by ranked teams. Hey, on your schedule moving forward, you have to play 10 teams that were ranked last year or whatever. Like there has to be a way to say, if you're getting into the CFP, there has to be an eligibility quotient. But again, what does that bring us back to? Again, we're trying to make this more difficult when we should just say, okay, well, let's have a super league, because then we don't have to deal with, all the baggage and, all the, you got to play the right schedule and I got to play the right schedule. No, we're just going to have this group of teams that are all going to play each other. And we're going to take all those questions out and we're going to have an NFL minor league model. And this is why I say, like, this is why the people saying, oh, well, the super league's not going to happen. I just disagree, because all of these questions about, strength of schedule and more road games and home games, like all that goes away if you have a group of schools committed financially to play each other.
Yeah. And I think y'all have to be rowing in the same direction. And when I look at what you do, I think it is going to be really difficult now. I just don't see how all this doesn't lead you to a super league. And call it what you want. I think a super league very well could be, and everybody mocked me when I said it, that, hey, the Big Ten and the SEC, I think we reported it exclusively on the show. The Big Ten and the SEC are looking at creating a new entity and moving away from the NCAA. It's a super league. And if you join that entity, you're going to have to be a P4 team, and you are going to have to commit to a financial framework. You are going to have to commit to a high bar, and you are going to get paid when you win games. I think that's exactly where this is going, and I don't know exactly how you fix it. And when you start looking at how and why all this is happening, the hows and whys are going to be really important here. How are you going to determine who has access to this new entity, and why is somebody going to want to join that new entity? And I think it's going to be P4s, and you're going to want to join that new entity because it's going to cost you much, much more to play college football, and you're going to need to make much, much more. And that's what a new entity will do. Call it a super league, new entity, whatever you want to call it. And I'll go back and look when we reported that. But I want to say it was January-ish when we first reported that. And everybody mocked us and laughed at us and said, new entity, what? Yeah. Because if you're Greg Sankey, does it make sense if you're Greg Sankey to try and rush something through where you agree to play 9 games?
No.
That's bad for business.
It doesn't make sense for the SEC, for any school in the SEC, or for Greg Sankey to do anything quickly, right? What makes sense is get everyone to the table, have productive conversations, allow everyone to have their input and make them feel valued. And then from there, you can kind of make decisions and start to move the ball forward. But I think it goes back to the clip where Greg is like, hey, I want solutions, not problems. And we're not bringing enough solutions. You guys aren't bringing enough solutions forward. And that's why he wants that, because ultimately that's what this is about. At some point, the little guy, the Big 12 and the ACC, have to get better about not just bringing problems. And again, everyone criticizes Greg and says he's just out for him and just out for the SEC, and that's all he cares about. But what else how else is he supposed to do this? I mean, the SEC is the heart of college football, is the heart of the biggest games, the biggest everything, bro. Like, I don't know how else are you supposed to do it?
And again, I'll just continue to sit here and say, we're clowns. We don't know anything. We're stupid. Sources, trust me, bro. Greg Sankey, according to Ross Dellinger, just said something almost verbatim that I said last week on the show. Remember, we talked about this idea of teams committing to a new framework, this new entity, and they were going to commit and play by a certain set of rules. Well, according to Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, on the affiliation agreement that requires school to waive their right to sue and binds them to House enforcement rules, quote, 16 universities are fully committed to making settlement terms work. Who do you think he's talking about? He's talking about the SEC. And you guys, I will just continue to tell you, I've heard repeatedly that whether you're the Big Ten and you want to try and force through a scheduling agreement, which I think is a mistake, or you're the SEC and you're going to make it very clear that if you're going to do business with us, you're going to abide by these rules. We're moving to a different time and day. We're moving to a place in college football where there are going to be very eerily similar, frameworks and agreements to the National Football League, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are college football, I think you need to get out from under the NCAA. I think you need to form that new entity I've been talking about, and you need to play professional football, formally play professional football, because I think we all agree that's what you've been doing already.
Yeah.
You need to formally play professional football and stop with this nonsense that somehow we're trying to avoid all that. You're not trying to avoid all that. You're already playing professional football.
Yes.
You need to formalize it.
And I think that concept of professional football versus amateurism, and these are just college kids, like that's where all of this stemmed from. Kids wanted to make money for their contribution, and now it's gone so far that we're in a place where we're now looking at hey, how do we create a model that benefits everyone? How do we grow the sport from here? How do we get everyone to be on a similar playing field, if you will? And I just think that again, I think we're graduating from, hey, Greg Sankey is an a-hole or is terrible for college football or he's ruining everything. You need to graduate from that a little bit and start to understand that you may not like Greg, but Greg is the guy leading the charge forward. And it would behoove the Big 12 and the ACC to actually get on board and figure out how to take advantage of the concept of a rising tide raises all ships, because that's what this is. It's going to happen whether you want it to happen or not. Are you going to benefit from it happening, or are you going to look like the stick in the mud that fought it the whole way?
Or are you going to get left behind?
Yeah.
You're not going to join some new revolution and fight it the entire way and be a stick in the spoke. That's just not going to, that's not how you're going to get business done. So I think all of these comments are incredibly, incredibly enlightening as to my brilliance. I think it's exactly what we've been telling you is going to happen for the better part of a year. We are moving to a different day and time in college sports. Noel Ramirez says, Uncle Monty right again. I know it's hard to believe. Seth, who makes hats, these TV deals ending around 2030 tells you when to expect a Super League, because I think it's really difficult right now to get unity in college athletics. There's so much spite and vitriol in court cases, and even what's going on, with the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC court cases.
Yes.
The Big 12. The Big 12 is really the only one that's just kind of, I think, sitting tight, waiting to see what happens. You look at the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, they're so caught up in their own legal fight.
Yeah, they can't even worry about the Super League.
They're
bro.
not maneuvering.
Yeah.
Right? So I just think I go back to what Greg Sankey has talked about. And the way that he has talked about these 9 games, or whatever you want to point at, when you look at Greg Sankey on Paul Feinbaum today, I think this is his best point, that the SEC has earned everything it's got.
The formation of an advisory committee. We had been at a CFP meeting where we couldn't make decisions. That was in Houston. And then we went to a set of NCAA meetings where we just couldn't make decisions or didn't take input. And my frustration level peaked. I called Tony on a Saturday night and said, what if we form some kind of working relationship just to think about things? Part of our challenge right now is our presidents have left that have populated those groups. So the ability to meet has been challenging. Our ADs have met. We've had 2 ADs meetings. If other people want to come into that conversation, I don't think there's a lot of resistance to that. Rooms of 60 don't solve problems, though. And I think even rooms of 34 don't solve problems. So the smaller group conversations are helpful. That doesn't mean we see the world exactly the same, but we can have an open dialogue. Tony and I talked last night. I said, hey, we had a conversation with our football coaches that went different around CFP format than I would have predicted. That's open. Tony texted me when he finished an athletics director's call. I will say, I think one of the hard parts about formulating ideas and making decisions is the number of leaks that come out. I mean, the media has their job. You want to get in advance. Last year we had
I think that's a very telling bite. I think is he wrong?
No, I mean, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, I think you have to have a certain amount of people to have these conversations properly. But this concept that the SEC has earned its position in the room, I think is spot on. I mean, I think that Greg I don't know. I guess I'm just in a different place with Greg Sankey than a lot of football fans are. I don't regard the guy as the enemy or this bad guy. Like, I look at Greg and I say, dude, this is the guy that everyone looks to speak. If you don't want him to be the guy, then maybe, your commissioner needs to speak more. I mean, I understand why Brett or Jim are not speaking more. I get that.
I get that too.
I get it. But at the same time, and this is my point to the Teresa Goulds of the world.
Yeah.
Then now more than ever, because Twitter or X is such a thing.
Yeah.
You have to be defining the narrative of your situation seemingly on a weekly basis, bro. So the more days that go by, whether it's Pac-12 and Mountain West mediation, or whether it's this Super League, SEC spring meetings, or whatever, whatever it is, you have to speak on video in front of the world and define the narrative. And I just feel like Greg's the only one doing that.
Yeah. Capazzo says Pac-2 not going to be part of that Super League. I don't know that their schools can afford it. And listen, nobody supports Oregon State and Scott Barnes more than I do. But do they have the budget right now to be $1 billion football operation? Because I think you're going to be playing in that pond. I mean, it's going to cost you a lot of money to form a new entity. It's going to cost you a lot of money to add the infrastructure and humanity, just strength and conditioning, nutrition, travel, infrastructure as far as academic advisors. And I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to have to hire and pay more coaches. You're going to be making more money, but that doesn't, this is the old, well, it's a tax write-off. Yeah, but I still got to lay that cash out, right?
Yes.
And I think guys like Scott Barnes, who, for those, the athletic director at Oregon State, Scott Barnes is a guy who's done every goddamn thing he can to get Oregon State into a P4 position and just has not been able to get it done. And we reported exclusively on the show last week that Scott Barnes has reached out to the Big 12. They no commented us, by the way. We reached out to Oregon State. They said no comment. So, I mean, that probably tells you everything you need to know. But, you know, I feel like we're in a place where I think right now Oregon State is and Washington State are on the outside looking in. And I'm not telling you that's right or wrong or that's how it should be. I think it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at this, has always been my argument with the Pac-12, going to the Pac-12, merge. Are you getting closer to a P4 by forming the Pac-12 and signing a grant of rights? I mean, you better have an out for a P4 bid, right? I don't know. I don't know what their thought process is. I truly do not. But we'll see. Jeff Woodworth, way more than 4 ACC left out. A lot of small schools in the ACC that can't afford to jump. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think it's really difficult to forecast. Oh, boy. Poncho Cornwallis back in the comments. Look, OSU, I'm assuming you mean Ohio State, finished 4th in the Big Ten and won the national championship. The regular season and the conference title games are meaningless. It's all just like Olympic qualifying. We are down to 5 weeks. Well, conference championship games won't be meaningless. I think they will be cash games now. And I think if you are a team like, again, Oregon winning a Big Ten championship, what did that mean for you? Not a goddamn thing, because you lost because of the bye week, in my opinion. I think the hard part is, and again, I'll just go back to what Greg Sankey has said about the SEC. The SEC is the best conference in college football because you're tested every single week.
Yes.
Why do you schedule Mercer in November? Because you need the off week. Right? That's why you make that decision. In the Big Ten, you look at who's the best team in the Big Ten right now? Let's say Ohio State, because they won the national championship. If we look at Ohio State's schedule, right, and we start looking at like the way it's built. Okay, they're playing Texas August 30th. September 6th, Grambling. September 13th, Ohio, the Bobcats. September 27th, at Washington. October 4th, Minnesota, at the Shoe. Anybody worried about the Minnesota game? Anybody worried about the next week in Champaign? Okay, Illinois is going to give you a fight. October 18th at Camp Randall. You worried about that game? It's a tough place to play, but we'll see. November 1st, Penn State. You're not worried about Penn State. You manhandled them last year. And it's at the Shoe. November 8th, at Pernone. November 15th, home for UCLA. November 22nd, home for Rutgers. November 29th, at Michigan. The last 4 games are a walk in the park. You don't have to worry about them.
You've got one game on that schedule. Let's be real.
You don't have to worry about them. And my guess is, yeah, Texas is that game. That's it. That's the beginning and the end. Right? That's the difference. Because if I go and look at who's the best team in the SEC right now. Okay, let's look at Texas. Texas, by all accounts, Texas or Georgia, let's give the nod to Sark. Look at Sark's schedule. At Ohio State, San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston.
Okay.
At Florida, Oklahoma. That's the Red River Shootout. Oh, excuse me, the Red River Rivalry. At Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt. At Georgia, Arkansas, Texas A&M. So in the last month of the season, you've got Vandy, who was a much better football team last year, but you should handle them at DKR, right? At Georgia, Arkansas, Texas A&M. It's a legitimate month of the season. It's a legitimate month. Okay, look at Alabama, who most people expect to have a resurgent season. ABC national TV, August 30th at Florida State. UL Monroe, Wisconsin, at Georgia, Vanderbilt, at Missouri, Tennessee, at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois on November 22nd. And then you finish up with the Iron Bowl at Auburn. Smart scheduling. Smart scheduling. So what's the difference? The last month of the season, Alabama has LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois in their rivalry game at Auburn. That's exponentially more difficult than Ohio State.
Yes.
Who doesn't have a tough game in the last month of the season.
You have one game.
Like,
it's first week of your schedule. And that's it.
You know.
Like
Jeff Woodward says, now do UTEP's schedule.
You know.
Jeff Woodworth also says, wed with a wawawi.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
That's right. SEC, Mississippi State, Vandy are most vulnerable. Could be. Vanderbilt won some big games last year and damn near won a bunch more, right? So BYU football. Now the Big and SEC are going to get double buys if you're going to start talking all the bye team loss. Well, I think buys are not great. If we learned anything last year, it was tough to have a bye week, right? Ask our friends in Eugene. So I think all of this is really interesting. And I think I just want to play the Sankey bite one more time on 9 games, because I do think when we talk about this is the future of college. You guys understand we're forming the future of college football, right? And there is, again, like him or hate him, there is nobody more powerful in college football than Greg Sankey.
And it's not all about the CFP. So recall our past conversations. There's a segment of our membership highly focused on, if you go to 9 games, is that an asset or a liability in CFP selection? It leans more towards liability. There's a segment who says, you know what, we'll play the games, we're going to be successful, and we'll be fine. And we saw some really difficult schedules. You know, Georgia had an incredibly difficult road schedule and was the second team in the CFP rankings. We were fully supportive of the bracketing change that's there for this year. On the other hand, when you go back to others who just want to think about bowl games, the potential for another loss to get to that 6-win threshold, you really have to process through what do bowl games look like in the future, and some of the issues we've had around portal entries and attrition within a team. We talked to ESPN about what that might mean for us together collectively. So it's actually a reduction in inventory. So you're taking a week of non-conference games where there could be 16, boiling that down to 8 if you go to 9. We need some clarity around CFP direction, though. I think that becomes the most prominent issue on the list of evaluation points.
I agree 100%. I think there is a long way to go and a lot to get worked out before any of this happens. But very interesting. Your thoughts. Let's get into it, Jeff Woodward. Don't want a bye week in week 1. You have a chance to make a lot of money with a home playoff game. Those home playoff games proved to be very, very lucrative because it got you to the second game, right? And if you look at Ohio State being a very good Tennessee team, then maybe Ema Liava got exposed in that game. But you start looking at the way that Ohio State made their run, they were battle tested by the time they got to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, got exposed. It is
no question.
It is very interesting to me to see how all that plays out. As soon as Feinbaum hears the name Nick Saban, he quickly drops to his knees. Nothing but Saban's boy toy.
Do you
guys hate him? Do you guys hate Feinbaum? Did you see, and we should have got the bite, but did you see Feinbaum had Lane Kiffin on and Lane just tortured him? My guy, Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, your guy from the SIP,
The SIP, thank you. Hot-ass girlfriend.
Right.
Lane Kiffin just tortured Feinbaum the other day. I think it was yesterday. It was hysterical. And hey, if Feinbaum, you don't have to like Feinbaum, but dude gets the bomb guests, right? Like he gets them all.
Right, we have fine, Mom.
You know, Nick Saban is a better man than Greg Sankey. Well,
Saban's a legendary coach. I don't know that I would say he'd be a legendary commissioner. You know what I mean?
Poncho, until the SEC actually wins it at a Big Ten stadium, well, you might want to check that Texas-Michigan score. When it's 25 degrees, 20-mile-per-hour wind. Why? Why does that matter?
Yeah,
See, the thing that I don't understand is like you guys have such a raging boner.
Stay hard.
Oh, we won the last 2 championships. Well, you scumbags in Ann Arbor didn't win a championship. You cheated college football. And just because you win championships doesn't mean you have the best, deepest conference. You don't. You don't. And I think you look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten is not deep. There's this belief. There's this crop dusting of college football fans by the Big Ten that we're deep, we're huge, we're hung, we're going to split you in half. We gaped everybody in college football.
We're in a control position.
You're not. You didn't. The Big Ten is good. Is it elite? No. Show me USC winning again. Show me Pete Carroll chomping gum at the Coliseum again. Be that football team, that conference exponentially gets better. Show me that the scumbag losers in Ann Arbor can do something other than steal, lie, and cheat and feed hungry kids cheeseburgers. We can have a conversation about that league being good again. Right? That's the issue. Oregon rolled in there and kicked everybody's ass. They beat the national champion. How good is a league when a new team comes in and wins the whole damn thing? Oh, I don't know, like the Big 12 with Arizona State?
I don't know, like the ACC?
It's a problem.
Just saying.
It's a problem. When SMU goes to the title game, and God bless Dabo Swinney, Jesus Christ, and Jesus' dad, that SMU didn't win that league, and then got
in God's name, image, and likeness,
and then got put a knuckle deep by Penn State. You know, my point is,
program on NIL.
How really good is that conference? Not better than the SEC. It's not. Where's the dynasty of the Big Ten? Where are people driving SRTs and murdering people in the Big Ten? Oh, that was Michigan State. My bad. Well, it could have been Jim Jordan at Ohio State. Could have been Jim Harbaugh, cheeseburgers for kids.
What about Buddy at Michigan State and his iPhone?
Yeah.
You know?
What about James Franklin and cock on thigh in the Penn State locker room?
You know? I mean, come on.
I mean, who are we kidding here? The conference of scandals.
Yeah.
Right?
Hiscock.
I mean, we can sit here and we can go back and forth, my guy. There's not a chance in the world the Big Ten is deep. Trust me, they have no idea if the water is cold or which way the pipe turns.
Nope.
Okay. Kim Coulter, I don't hate Feinbaum. I listen to him every single day for 16 years until I found out y'all and a couple of other YouTube shows. His show is entertaining, and he's got every relevant college football guy he ever wanted. Right? And listening to him in Lane Train is incredibly entertaining. Fight on Natty's. Texas technically won the SEC. Could you? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Technically. They got to beat Georgia eventually at some point ever. But, you know, the Big is better at scandals. I'll give them that. I mean, they, again, cock on thigh guy. They dominate that. Ohio State wrestling, Michigan football, with their offensive coordinator allegedly breaking in the social media accounts for nudes. I mean, he makes Connor Scallions and his vacuum repair guy thing look like a non-story.
Yeah. I mean, come on, dude. Come on.
I mean, my God, you compare Matt Weiss to Connor Stallions. Matt Weiss, he rolled a home invasion. He put 2 in the brain pan.
Yeah, dude. Yep, rock and roll.
I just thought that you would appreciate me treating you like an adult.
The Accountant is one of the best movies ever. 1 is way better.
Physiologically, it's a non-starter.
Way better. The Big is a car wash conference. Yeah. James Franklin. James Franklin, otherwise known as cock on thigh guy. Because everywhere, check out James Franklin's record for Title IX at Vanderbilt.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest.
Yeah, spider tack ain't a problem, right? I mean, you start looking at, and why can I not? Micah Parsons.
Yeah, and his knife.
Yeah, Micah Parsons roll naked on the floor allegedly. Guy, nothing to see here. My God, Ask Micah Parsons. You have no idea how deep it is in the Big Ten. Anybody? Nothing?
Bro,
We should probably move on.
I cannot.
No redos.
No.
Eric Wasikowski, what's the truck stop conference done lately? What conference is that? Because every conference has truck stops.
Yeah.
I love the truck stop conference. I love the flyover
The
conference.
arrogance of Big Ten fan is incredible.
The
You're literally ruining people's lives.
Ain't no reset.
Come on, bro.
What is the what? Somebody explain me. What is truck stop? How is truck stop conference or flyover conference an insult? Somebody help me with that.
I mean, you understand that like Michigan and Ohio are right in the middle of the country, right? Like
No,
you get
Jake,
that.
they don't allow planes to fly over Michigan or Ohio. They don't have airports in Michigan or Ohio.
They got to go
right?
above the border. They got to, they could fly over Canada
Yeah.
and they come back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and there are no truck stops in Ohio, even though ask the owner of the Cleveland Browns, who's a truck stop magnet, you prick. Like,
I mean, it's just,
doing?
you know.
Like, what does that even mean? Well, truck stop, Colin. Okay, what does that mean? This is Pac-12 country, bro. Look at the billboard. Okay, I saw it from the truck stop down the road. There's like, what does that mean? Anyway, Jeff Woodworth. First Buc-ee's I went to was in Indiana. Go old Big Ten.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Big Ten country. Breaker. Anyway. Big 12 problem was to let Texas and OU get away. They were the two best teams. There were 4 teams that replaced them, have not stepped up enough. I totally agree, Joseph Harper.
Yes. By the way, enjoy that gift card, my guy.
All of the Stillwater friends who were like, oh, let me hold the door for Oklahoma. To have how sickening was it for you Okie Light fans to have Mike Gundy begging to play Oklahoma the other week? What was that? A month ago. Oh, we'd love to have a spring game with Oklahoma. Oh, man, let's bring in, they have a great softball program. Patty Gasso, she can be their quarterback. Like, are you out of your mind?
Hey, can Patty be the OC or what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd be a better coach than you.
Yeah.
Like, you held the door for Oklahoma to leave. Remember that? What was that? 2 years ago at Big 12 Media Day in Dallas? Mike Gundy, oh, we don't need to play Oklahoma. That's not our identity. Hey, will you guys please play us in a spring ball game?
I'm a man.
I'll shave my mullet.
And the concessions can go towards NIL. We'll do a hum and it's incredible, and we should have been doing this forever.
Eric Wasikowski has a point of fact. Yeah, point of order, please, sir. Does Buc-ee's qualify as a truck stop? Trucks aren't allowed there.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Come on.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
That's so good, Was. That is so good. Patrick Roybal, the Big 12 has to compete with the NFL. A lot of people forget that. Loner Phone wants us to know that lot lizards equal truck stops. Hey,
you're
man,
not wrong, dude.
people got to earn money, you know.
We show up.
Oaks, yeah, you do. Never fails.
Yeah.
Snowing on Christmas Eve, them lot lizards, they ready to give you a. Okay. Oak State should have been the new face of the Gig 12, but then Gundy does Gundy things. Hey, man, who hasn't done that 1,000 times?
Phil, Eric, it's okay, dude. If you're going to fat finger the keyboard, that's fine, bro.
Okay,
Not a big problem.
Stay hard.
Not a big problem.
Are you kidding me?
Listen, dude, he's got I don't know what the Gig 12 is. You know.
Hey, look at that. Midweek Coug gifts 20 Monty Show.
Bro.
Membership. Screw you, Kirk Schultz. Midweek Coug, appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Go ahead and slurp them up, boys. Let's see who got in on the midweek Coug.
You ain't first. You're last.
Hey, what'd you do this week? I had a little midweek Coug.
My fucking ass.
Jim Tussing. I've heard that about you.
Hey, Tussing.
Jordan Royal. Somebody with a name Shay. T-Rob Sports Gob. Okay. Michael Peck. Big Red N. Barkim Ashi. Expedition Greg. Hey. Harpreet Bapal. Okay. James Haley, Troy Dubb, Micah Mars, Sage, Steve Sarge B. Good to see you, Sarge. Marcus Taylor, Jonathan Serrell. No, you. No, you. No, you. No. You. Okay.
You know.
Dave Balmforth.
Hey, Balmforth. What's up, Slick?
And Don Shepard. There you go. Welcome to the membership. Thank you, Midweek Coug. Always very much appreciate that. Matt Ritson, any news? Troy Taylor after fired at Stanford? No, I have a feeling he's going to have a tough time getting a gig. That is not how you want to go out. It just isn't how you want to go out. Poncho typing in all caps, so must be a good comment. Monty just gave you a lock. If the big is so easy, then Michigan is a lock to get to the playoff. No, who said that? Those scumbag losers in Ann Arbor? No.
Sharon Moore's say dumb things.
Yeah, you
like,
say
what are you
really
doing,
dumb
bro?
things.
Like, what are you doing?
Sharon Moore's not going to coach half the season. Matt Weiss still hasn't given up the nudes.
Like, sorry, dude. I know it's the Monty Show, but the last time I checked, neither of us said that Michigan's going to the CFP.
Nobody said
So
that.
I don't know where you're getting that, but good luck.
Nobody said that. Balforth, I've heard that about you.
Yeah.
Gumby.
Ball fifth.
Balfour, best pitcher name of all time. Could be Ed Belfour, best goaltender. Yeah. Eddie. All caps Wednesday. Remember Caps Lock Friday on the show?
The day on the show that destroyed one of our mics.
Like the $500 microphones we use. Hey, what are you guys doing with all that membership money? We blow out $500 microphones.
The processor and the mic got blown out because Monty was doing Caps Lock Friday. I don't know what to tell you.
It's the Monty Showgram.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly right. All right. If you are watching the show on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. We've had over 3,000 views. 100 now. We're over 109 now. Please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. If you guys are watching on X, boy, Elon has put himself in another interesting position, has he not?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we all know it was going to go this way where those two weren't going to get along? Appreciate everybody watching on X. Appreciate everybody listening to the audio podcast of the show. Please come on over to YouTube, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show on Google. Hit subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on X, The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. Hello to everybody on Facebook, by the way. I got a note. You never shout out Facebook. Okay, you're right. I don't. Seth, who makes hats. Walker is another good pitcher name. It is.
Yeah.
I would agree. Teflon Don and Nylon Elon.
Yeah, we don't.
Elon's got to get back to making good cars.
We don't.
See, their Tesla sales are down 50% in Europe.
Yeah, well, when your car blows up, that tends to happen. So,
It's not good. It is not good. Bruh, who uses Facebook? I don't know, but we have a good little following on Facebook. We broadcast live on Facebook, Them Tigers just keep winning, going to June games against the Cubs. Well, it is interesting, and I was looking at the Tigers' schedule the other day, because, and you're in a terrible division loss. Let's not kid ourselves. You're 6 games up in the Central. Let's slow our roll a little bit. But if you look at the El Tigre's schedule, 3 at Kansas City, 4 at the White Sox, 3 against the Cubs, 3 at Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, 3 at Tampa, 3 against Sacramento. Don't you dare call us Oakland. 3 against Minnesota, 3 against Washington, 3 against Cleveland, 3 against Tampa, and 3 against Seattle. The worst teams in baseball. The Tigers have an incredibly easy first half landing pad. The Cubs here situated. The Cubs have 1 more tonight against Colorado, 3 against Cincinnati, Washington, Detroit, 3 at Philly, 4 against Pittsburgh, 3 against Milwaukee, 3 against Seattle, 4 at the resurgent red hot St. Louis Cardinals, 3 at Houston, Cleveland, St. Louis, Minnesota, and then the Yankees of New York in New York.
Yeah.
Say the Cubs schedule doesn't get as easy as everybody said. It's not as though, and I know it's super easy because then the Cubs open the second half, 3 against Boston, 3 against Kansas City, 3 against the Chicago White Sox, 3 at Milwaukee, Baltimore, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Toronto. Like, I don't think the schedule is as easy as everybody projected. And you have that West Coast trip against the Angels, Giants, and Rockies in August as well. So it is not going to be the easiest thing in the world. And I'd remind you, they finish against the Mets and Cardinals. So, Woodworth, go Rockies. I'm seeing 22 and 140 this year.
I mean, just an awesome season,
They're so bad. So bad. Maury Alvarez, our favorite Floridian. Just one more day of school. Shout out to my students that did amazing this year. Indeed. School year went by quick. You guys, it's May 28th.
Yep.
How? I don't
know, bro.
Midweek coup, can we get back-to-back years of record losses? Amazingly bad, dude.
It's embarrassing, dude.
I don't know how they're this bad.
And you fired Buddy Black as an excuse to try to get better, and it's just gotten worse. Nice, bro.
Yeah.
Nice.
Loner phone. Yankees 14 of 18. Loving this team. Still hate Boone, but if wins the World Series, all's forgiven. Dude, Aaron Judge is the dude. The Yankees.
I think Booney's been pretty good, dude.
I think Booney's been an excellent manager.
Yeah.
I think the funny thing about the Yankees, nobody's talking about the Yankees.
Nope.
Nobody's talking about the fact that they're 14 over and 6 up in the East, and Boston has been horrendous. Baltimore has been very Colorado. Like, Baltimore has been terrible. But you look at Aaron Judge, 395, 18 bombs, 47 RBIs. Do you understand that it's not June 1st and he's got 153 total bases? Let that sink at 153 total bases. He's the MVP running away with it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And he's slugging 746 with an OPS at 1234. Jesus. How is that possible? And how is it possible also that does anybody know who is leading the Yankees in wins? Because there's a guy that nobody realizes is on the Yankees. And his name is Max Fried.
I don't know. I don't know if
what?
I don't know quite. I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest.
Spider Tack is not.
Yeah, good old Spider Tack having his elbow rebuilt, not pitching. Carlos Rodon and Max Fried are leading the rotation. And Fried, I think Fried's been actually really good. And I know that's probably ridiculous. 11 starts, 7 wins, no losses, 70 innings, 49 hits, 10 earned runs. I said 10 earned runs in 70 innings. Do you understand that his whip is 0.93 as a starting pitcher? And he's got an ERA of 1.29, and he's got the best pickoff move in baseball. Nobody's talking about them. And then it falls off precipitously down to like Will Warren, who's a 4.09, Clark Schmidt, who's a 4.58. Like, they don't have a number 3 starting pitcher, and yet they are murdering people. It's amazing that they're doing what they're doing, and they really don't have a closer. The Yankees really don't have a closer. You look at their save numbers. Luke Weaver's got 8. Fernando Cruz has 2, and Devin Williams has 5. Devin Williams, who is left for dead, has 5 saves for the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy in my mind that they continue to operate the way that they're operating, and they are winning games. Oh boy. Look at Jake coming through on the old text machine.
I don't.
Just when we were going to go off the rails.
I don't want people to get burned out on us saying "I told you so."
And
we were
saying that.
Yeah, and I would never, feed Monty, the ammunition for us to continue to say things like "I told you so." But here are a couple of tweets that we're working to show you guys from the old tweet machine and Chris Vanini talking to, just some random individuals in the Big 12. Just some people
just some fucking guy.
Just some guy who, might control the Big 12 on some level.
That's wild. Look at that. When we talk about, and this is that whole thing where you have a whole conversation centered around whether or not the Big 12 can compete with the SEC, right? Because that's really what this conversation's about, right? If we're truth telling, isn't that what this conversation's about? Is can the Big 12 compete with the SEC?
Mm-hmm.
Brett Yormark is in favor of a 5-11 CFP, even if the league might not get 2 bids in a given year, and that's okay, he says, because we've got to earn it on the field. I tell my room, you're rewarded when you perform at the highest level. And then how about Mark Harlan, the guy that you guys say he sucks, they suck, we hate them.
Utah's terrible.
They're going to the Big Ten. I asked Utah AD Mark Harlan if there's concern a 5+11 model could lead to more SEC teams without Big 12 teams getting in. Quote, then Big 12, let's win more games. Let's get after it. How long have I been saying this?
Dude, how long have I died on the hill?
Stanford
having to win more football games.
Yes.
That's
2 years
what
ago.
This is about, bro. This is about, who wins the most games, garners the most relevancy, and thus has the most power in the room. Not the Big 12. Not currently. So, again, when everyone wants to give us a bunch of crap about how we're saying, Okie Light or, Utah or, any of these programs, BYU without Jake Retzloff, most likely, let's see what happens. But, these programs in the Big 12, dude, it's time to start winning football games and operating at a higher level. And I'm telling you, the commissioner's office in the Big 12 and these schools that, over a 10-year span should be consistently at the top of the Big 12 are going to find a way to incentivize the bottom feeders in the conferences move along here. They have to do that. It has to become a thing in the Big 12. It's no longer good enough to be, to have ASU representing this conference in the CFP is just wild, bro. With all due respect to ASU.
It's unbelievable to me that now maybe people will learn. We don't talk off the top of our heads on this show. At some point, and Oak State James and every other Oklahoma State fan, I love that you guys are on the show. Okie Light, everybody. Kay Sumbry, I really love that you guys are here. They're talking to you. Mark Harlan is talking to Kyle Whittingham, right? Brett Yormark's talking to Baylor. He's talking to Texas Tech. He's talking to everybody in this league that doesn't do everything that they can do. And did I not just say 2 hours ago, I guarantee you Mark Harlan has sold out to win every single snap and every single pitch and at bat and bounce of the basketball in his athletic department. And I'm telling you, it's not good enough for the state of Texas to be an also-ran in college football outside of UT. Because that's what you are. It's not good enough that Oklahoma State doesn't win games because they don't. You can't, with all due respect to Arizona State. Arizona State can't come in here and win the conference like that. BYU dominating. I know that Coach Prime, what did somebody say? He's a used car salesman the other day. They almost won the whole conference last year. What does that make you? Like, you got to win more games. I love that. I think that is absolutely fantastic.
It's correct.
It's exactly what I needed to hear from Brett Yormark and Mark Harlan. And it's why I tell you consistently, Mark Harlan should have been the commissioner of the Pac-12.
And by the way, I agree with that, but I also think in this conversation of what's a better format for the Big 12, five AQs and 11 at large, or the 4-4, 2-2-1, madness. And I can't get away from this concept, and maybe we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but this idea that the Big 12 and its constituents are not going to accept the 4-4 model that would give the SEC and the Big 10 4 AQs, and that they would rather have 5 AQs and 11 at large because they don't want to position themselves as inferior to those two conferences. Because if you accept that model where you're getting half as many as the Big 10 and the SEC, you're saying, yeah, we're inferior and we're good with that. You're saying that. You are in support of that. And so that's why I'm telling you this model of 4 AQs for the Big 10 and the SEC, that is not going to be widely accepted. There is going to be major fight. And that's why folks like Mark Harlan and hopefully other ADs in the Big 12 are getting on board with this, man. Because once again, and this would be my message to Big 12 fan, whether you're an Oakley Light supporter, a TCU fan, if you're in Waco, wherever you are, it's not good enough anymore to have 10-8 win seasons.
No, it's not.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't care if you're bowl eligible, but you didn't make the CFP. Don't care. That is an underachieving season. That is a season that is not good enough anymore. What's good enough is, hey, go out and compete for the conference and go out and win big games against other conferences when you get the chance and get into the CFP. And my God, can we please schedule aggressively early in the season if you're the Big 12? And I understand that the SEC and the Big 10 have this scheduling alliance per se, where they're going to play each other, and that's what their non-cons are going to be. But if you're the ACC and the Big 12, you have got to get the biggest brands in the Big 12 to play the biggest brands in the ACC. And if it ever turns into a thing where you can get the opportunity to roll in a random Notre Dame style level of game, that would be great too, if it's possible.
Bro, did you see the first quote from Mark Harlan to Chris Vanini at The Athletic? Big 12 coaches will dive into the CFP conversation here at spring meetings tomorrow, but Utah AD and former CFP selection committee member Mark Harlan is strongly behind a 5+11 model. I think the public and we agree that you have to win this thing on the field. You can't adjudicate it so that you get a spot so that, you can say, hey, we made it. Because it's not good enough to just make it. Harlan continued, then the Big 12, let's win more games. Let's get after it. Damn right. Damn right.
Look at this. And I know that we've had some disagreements with Andy Staples at On 3.
Yes, we have.
We've had some disagreements with Andy Staples. But I think this is exactly what I was just saying. Andy Staples just retweeted the Chris Vanini tweet, right? And it's talking about how this Big 12 is at a crossroads where you have to decide what you want. Do you want to be inferior to these two conferences, the Big 10 and the SEC? Do you want to be inferior to those two, but have AQs? Or do you want to let it play out on the field and have no guarantees? That is the crossroad the Big 12 is at, and the ACC obviously is at. And I think this is, it might be strong to say that this is like the fight of your life if you're the Big 12 and the ACC, but I kind of feel like that's what it is. Because
but how long have I been saying that?
Yeah, because I feel like at some point you have to perform on the field. And yes, ASU showed the world that the Big 12 can compete with the SEC on some level, but it's got to be on a bigger scale. I mean, look at this. Look at this, right? This is the question for the Big 12. I mean, dude, a national writer for On3, grain of salt, totally get it. But like this level of dude is talking about this.
Codify inferiority, but get 2 guaranteed bids, or bet on yourself, and maybe some years you don't get 2 in, and maybe the league doesn't really get a choice. But I like Harlan's attitude because it's what it should be about. Everybody's screaming, and I say this about G5s all the time. Everybody's screaming about, we deserve a seat at the table. No, you don't. No, you do not deserve a seat at the table. And I'll continue to say SMU and Boise had no business being in the college football playoff last year. You got torched by Penn State, who then got blown up by Notre Dame. Not close.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I understand you need the money. At some point, the G5 has to go their own way. I'm a huge believer that the G5 plays quality football with good kids and good coaches and good administrators. Let them play their own championship on a level playing field. Let that happen. Because I'm telling you, how many G5 schools out there can go and compete financially, even with Big 12 schools? Not many. And so when you look at the Big 12's plight, you can't tell me the bottom half of this league belongs playing for money games.
Well, and to that point, you know, I would love to, you know, Mark Harlan came on this show. I'd love to ask Mark Harlan, what is Utah's stance athletically with NIL? When are we turning up the gas on NIL for football, at least? I understand.
And they have.
But if we're going to sit here and we can put it back on the screen, but if we're going to sit here and say, hey, this needs to be decided on the field and we need to start winning more, I'm not criticizing Utah. What I'm saying is that if you want to win at that level, right, if the stated goal is to win, you know, is to be in the CFP, compete for CFP spots, you know, at that point, compete for a national championship, bro, you can't do that unless you are fully, and I mean fully, on board and committed with spending the most money you've ever spent.
When they spent $6 million last year.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they didn't spend
money. That's not a lot of money, but that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when you look at where that money went, it went to retaining a guy like Cam Rising. Now, you thought you would get far more from him, but it's going to player retention instead of recruiting in the portal. And the Crimson Collective has to spend more money.
And so whether it's NIL or any of these other things, I love that this is Mark's stance. I love this out of Mark Harlan. I absolutely love it. This is exactly what we need to be hearing out of Mark Harlan. But I just hope, and I know, so we live in Salt Lake. I know for a fact Utah's got money they can spend. Like, it's available to them. But I'm just curious what the strategy is, because we know, and this is not unique to Utah, but we know that every school and every athletic department has a different stance and strategy when it comes to the transfer portal and when it comes to NIL and how they're going to go about doing that. And I haven't even brought up the new NIL clearinghouse known as NIL Go that is going to go into effect in pretty short order. So my point is not that Utah hasn't spent money. Yes, you've spent money, of course. But how do you spend money on par with, the middle of the road Big Ten team, the middle of the road SEC team, to where you can get that best of the best talent, where you can get that kid who maybe didn't have a spot, maybe couldn't get a spot in Tuscaloosa, maybe couldn't get a spot, in Ann Arbor or with Ohio State or any of those top level programs, but really needs a spot and can be a difference maker. And you got to go out.
Imaliava.
I've
got $4 million.
Right. But that's a great example, right? Like the Big 12 was never really, we didn't really hear any smoke around the Big 12 with Imaliava.
And you guys, I'm just going to sit here and you can tell me I'm knee padding. I really don't give a rat's ass. I am telling you right now that Mark Harlan is the exact right guy for Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Harlan is saying exactly what needs to be said. And I hope if you are in the halls in Waco, and I hope if you're in the halls in Stillwater, and I hope if you're in Fort Worth, and I hope if you are in Lubbock, if you are in Manhattan, if you are in Lawrence, if you are in Morgantown, open your ears, Houston.
Gosh, West Virginia is
Provo.
a great example.
Open your ears. Take note from a guy, and Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, who's saying exactly what needs to be said. No BS, no pulling punches. The public, and we agree, you have to win this thing on the field. Go win games. Go win games. And when you guys espouse to me that all I do is kiss Utah's ass and you're a Utah show, okay, great. I want my athletic director saying it doesn't matter. I don't want anything for free. I want to kick people's ass on the field and earn my way into the money game. That's what I'm about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about. And we can sit here and we can get upset about Mark Harlan and what he did after the BYU game. You know what? I get it now. Because every one of those games is life and death. Every snap. And go back to hour number 1. What did I say? I guarantee you Mark Harlan is in Kyle Whittingham's office saying, hey, why did we lose that snap? Why did we lose that snap? Why didn't we win that snap? And so what did they do? They made changes at Utah football. And I've been covering that team since 2010-ish. I've never seen them make the wholesale kind of changes they made. He's not a portal guy. He's not a go fire my offensive coordinator guy. But what did he do? Completely made changes we have not seen Kyle Whittingham make. And what did they do at Utah basketball? They fired their basketball coach the second their season was over. Not when they played the last game, when they couldn't go to the postseason. And then he went and got a guy that everybody said was the guy. And do you think Mark Harlan knows how much money BYU is spending in NIL and basketball? Yeah, I think he does. Do you think he's all in to beat Utah or to beat BYU when Utah goes down to Provo? I guarantee you he is. Is your athletic director in flipping Stillwater when you gave your coach a pay cut and then announced you did it because you needed more money for NIL? Are you all in to win? No, you're not. No, you're not. With Dave Aranda still the head coach in Waco, are you all in to win? You're not. With Joey McGuire spending that kind of money, are you all in to win? You goddamn right you are. That's what this conference should be about. It shouldn't be about afterthoughts and also rans and that's not what college football is about anymore. That's not what it is, because these are, and I keep calling them that, and people hate that I say that I call them cash games. These are all cash games.
Yes.
You want to ask BYU about losing to Kansas last year? You want to ask Prime about losing to Kansas last year? Kansas was left for dead in this league and won 2 of the biggest games of the year.
And I think the Harlan quote is exactly why the SEC has the hammer right now. Because the SEC didn't ask for anything for free. They went and took it and then put themselves in a position where they could leverage the other conferences into giving them anything that they wanted. Yeah. Like that's what it is. And yeah, you're damn right. They rode the back of one of the greatest college football coaches we've ever seen in Nick Saban. And then another one, a disciple in Kirby. Yeah, they did. But you know what? That's how the cookie crumbled.
The Big 12 needs the bottom half to come up. You need the Houstons. UCF. I understand you needed to make change, but is Scott Frost got anybody's fire lit? Rich Rodriguez is a great hire at West Virginia. You put up billboards to fire Neil Brown. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And you've got it. The bottom of this conference has to come up. Dude, I'm so fired up that Mark Harlan said that. I have been waiting and waiting. I've been waiting for this.
What did I just say? What did I just say at the beginning of the show when we were, or actually hour number 2 when we were talking about the Pac-12? What did I just say? We aren't hearing from people enough out of the Big 12. We aren't hearing from we're not hearing, but obviously now we have. But my point was, like, with the Mountain West Pac-12 thing, hadn't heard from Teresa Gould since the interview she did where she made those statements, and JD Wicker talks too much, and now what do we get? A perfect. Couldn't ask for a better example of what I mean than to say Mark Harlan just 1,000% defined the narrative for Utah and certainly defined the narrative for what it should be in the Big 12.
And look at Brett Yormark saying the exact same thing. Now, granted, they're talking because it's the spring meetings in the Big 12.
Yeah, but still.
Dude, I don't ever want to hear another thing about how Utah doesn't belong in this league or hates this league or wants to go to the Big Ten. Dude, they just raised the bar for every single program in this conference.
Yeah.
Every single one. And I hope that this wakes some people up, because what's happening right now in college football is a lot of the Big 12 is getting left behind. A lot of the Big 12 is getting left behind. And I think you have to find a way. I think you have to find a way to win every single game that you play in. Because if you don't, there's just no point in spending the money that it takes to run a football program. It's not cheap, man. And I respect the hell out of guys like Mark Harlan, because I think you have to have a short leash on bad athletic programs.
Yeah.
And I just think
you got to have the right mentality, bro. Like if you're like, I don't care what sport you're in or like what you do, like take sports out of it, like whatever you do, right? Like if you're not trying to, like if you're not fully committed to winning in whatever you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. And if you're not committed to it, that's fine, but just make a change. Get to something you are committed to. And I think that to me is what comes just howling through that Mark Harlan statement. Like, dude, what else are we here to do? What if we're not trying to win? Like, if this isn't decided on the field, what even is the point of anything that we do? If we're just sitting here trying to get, basically ride the coattails of the SEC and the Big Ten by getting 2 free AQs. Like, if that's the route, because
that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, at that point, that's what you're trying to do. You've said, if they, not that they will, but if the Big 12 and the ACC were to say, okay, cool, we're good with 2 AQs, half as many as you guys get. You just said that you're not as good of the conference. You just said you don't believe you can beat those 2 conferences, and you just said that you're okay being regarded as an inferior product. And clearly, Brett Yormark in the Mark Harlans of the world are not okay with that. So I would hope, that through this conference, that people get on board with this. Like, I have to say it again. I am sick and tired of rolling up on this show talking about how the Big 12 just underachieves. And
not good enough.
And I love my guys at BYU, but you can't lose those games, bro. That's not good enough. Like, you can't.
I'm really worried about Retzloff.
Yeah, well, you should be. You should be. And I see all the talk about everyone's just moved along. No one's talking about
innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty, and all the talk is shifted to like the local radio station, all the YouTubers, and everyone's just shifted to, well, what if they don't have Retzloff? They're going to be just fine. Yeah. Bro, I'm not ready to talk about what if you don't have Retzloff yet, because we don't know what the hell is going to happen for BYU football.
And look at the bracket from last year. This is what the bracket would have been. Where's BYU in this bracket? Yeah, they'd still be on the outside looking in, right? But how different would this have played out if Ohio State would have been a 6? They would have had to play Alabama, Texas, or Ole Miss. Would Texas have beaten Ole Miss? Tennessee beats SMU. I think Georgia beats South Carolina. We'd probably be looking at a much different bracket on that side. How different would it have been if Miami had gotten in and run into Penn State in the first round? Penn State would have been out of this tournament, right? Arizona State versus Notre Dame in round 1. Does Notre Dame get exposed against Arizona State? I don't know. But that would have been a hell of a football game. Oregon and Clemson, 8-9 game between Indiana and Boise. Do you think Indiana would have wanted that matchup instead of at the stadium against the Irish? Yeah, I'm going to say they would have. It would have been a completely different outcome. Now, you can't go back and rewrite it, and I still think it's one of the greatest championships ever won by Ohio State. But, Seth Hatmaker, that's what broke my heart about Washington State president saying we want to be regional and high mid-tier. We openly shoot that low. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's why I feel so terrible for Oregon State and Washington State fans.
Yes.
Because at Oregon State, you're trying to shoot for the moon and you just can't. At Washington State, you're trying not to get off the ground. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy. We'll see. Man, that fired me up. And I could go on and on about it.
More tomorrow.
More tomorrow for sure. More tomorrow for sure.
And yeah, tomorrow we'll have it out about Stefon Diggs and his little boating activities.
God, you have such a hard on.
We'll get on to that tomorrow.
Until you can prove to me it was cocaine and meth, I'm not saying that he's a drug user. Now you got them hoes, and probably high on them hoes. Hey, Cardi B, your thoughts?
Mike, your thoughts, bro.
Mike Vrabel's a beaut. NFL tomorrow. Will we be talking about the OKC Western Conference champion Thunder? We'll have a lot more on the Big 12 tomorrow as well. As always, presented by the Advocates at theadvocates.com. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.